Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Natsu had dual elements. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 10, Natsu defeats Urza? 2 days after the lullaby incident. Even if Eisenwald has been defeated, the main problem hasn't been solved yet. There are still tons of dark guilds still in existence. Magic Council member, Belno, said as she turned to her fellow council members. All of the magical council members were gathered around a large round table, and were discussing recent events. We should root them all out together, Michello suggested, earning a sigh from Yajima. And how do you suggest we do that, Michello? Yajima asked in a tired tone. It's unacceptable for any wizard to embezzle Zeref's dark magic, Org said, as he held up Lullaby. We cannot allow something like this to happen again. How could have Eisenwald attained such dark magic anyways? Cran Doma asked his fellow council members. Security must be increased around evil magic like this. Good thing Fairy Tail, the guild you all are annoyed by, showed up to save the day, Seagrain said with a smirk, as he leaned back in his chair. They managed to take out an entire dark guild with only 4 mages, Altair added with a small smile. One of their mages, Natsu Dragneel, managed to defeat Aragorn almost without injury. All the other council members grumbled various words of annoyance. I can understand you all don't want to admit the truth, but that's how it is, Seagrain said, as he crossed his legs. If the guild masters had been killed by Lullaby, things would have been much worse. Some of us would likely have been fired. Don't be ridiculous, Org exclaimed, slamming his fist onto the table. Are you really gonna bring up the matter of responsibility here? That's out of the question. We're already tearing our hair out, because of Fairy Tail's reckless behavior, Michello shouted, as he shook his fist. You should show Fairy Tail some thanks and stop complaining, Seagrain said, earning growls from several of the other council members. Back in Magnolia, Eisenwald's terrorist attempt at the Guildmaster's regular meeting became huge news, and it wasn't long before Olafiore heard about it. Lucy thought, as she tied her hair in a sideways ponytail on the right side of her head. I still can't believe I was in the middle of such a big incident, but here I am now, just living another regular day in my life. Lucy pulled up her skirt, and zipped up her blue and white blouse. Thought I have to admit I get really excited when I remember the incident. Natsu and Urza were totally amazing, and Gray seemed pretty strong too. But I have a weird feeling that Natsu and Urza weren't going all out, and that they were seriously holding back their true potential. Walking into her living room, Lucy took a seat at her writing desk. Pulling out a pen, Lucy began to write a letter to her mother. Rumor has it that Kageyama and most of the Eisenwald mages were arrested, which is no surprise. But I'm kinda worried, because Aragorn hasn't been arrested yet. Who am I kidding? If he comes back, Natsu will just kick the shit out of him again. We'll definitely be alright, because Fairy Tail has its strongest team at the ready with Natsu, Urza, Gray, Happy, and me. Lucy smiled, as she placed the letter in an envelope and placed a seal on it. Fairy Tail is truly the best guild. I'm so glad Natsu and I reunited, and he brought me to such an amazing place. I really wish you could have met Natsu, Mom. I'm sure you would have loved him like I do. I'm not afraid to think about it anymore. I think I am in love in Natsu. I just have to find the right time to tell him. So please don't worry about me, Mom. I'm doing fine over here. Lucy released a sigh and leaned back in her chair. Amazing, suspense-filled adventure is great and everything, but nothing beats a relaxing day at home, Lucy said, as she stretched her arms out. A mischievous smile spread across Lucy's face, as an idea popped into her head. Maybe I'll go shopping later. I can probably get Natsu to come along if I tell him we can get something to eat after. Mira was right, 70,000 jewels a month for this place is nothing. A voice from behind Lucy said. Lucy quickly spun around in her chair to see Gray sitting behind her. You found a great place here, Lucy. Gray grinned as he waved at Lucy. KYAA. Trespasser. Lucy screamed, kicking Gray in the face. The ice mage was sent fly across the room, or he crashed into a wall. And keep your fucking clothes on in my home. You've got it all wrong. Gray argued, as he dusted himself off. My clothes were already off before I got here. I don't fucking care. Lucy yelled, as pointed towards her door. Go home now. I guess you forgot that is taking place today. Gray said cryptically, causing Lucy to raise an eyebrow. I came to get you, because Flame Brain didn't want you to miss it. That? What are you on about? Lucy asked with a confused look. I knew you forgot. Gray said with a sigh, putting his hands in his pockets. Didn't you hear Natsu before we left on our mission? Hearing Gray say this caused Lucy's eyes to widen. That's right. Natsu and Urza are fighting. Lucy exclaimed, as she raced to her front door. I have to get down to the guild so I can watch. Lucy slammed her door, racing out of her apartment. Hey, wait for me. Gray yelled, as he ran after Lucy. Lucy and Gray sprinted through the streets of Magnolia towards Fairy Tale. As they neared the guild, Lucy could hear the sounds of cheering. Rounding a corner, Lucy and Gray spotted a large crowd gathered in front of Fairy Tale. Lucy ran towards the crowd, and began to push her way through. Reaching the front, Lucy spotted Natsu and Urza standing in the center of the crowd. Are they serious about this? Lucy asked, as she stood next to Mira Jane. Of course they're serious. If they weren't, they wouldn't be real men. Elfman yelled, as he clenched his fist. But Urza's a girl. Mira Jane corrected with a giggle. But if two people from the strongest team fight? Lucy tried to say, but Gray cut her off. Strongest team? What are you talking about? Gray asked, arching an eyebrow. I'm talking about Natsu, Urza, and you. You three are the strongest mages in Fairy Tale, right? Lucy asked, causing Gray to look even more confused. Huh? Who told you something so stupid? Gray asked, causing Mira Jane to start crying. Oh, it was Mira-chan? Gray. Natsu's voice echoed out, causing the ice mage to turn around. The dragon slayer was glaring at him with fire in his eyes. After I'm done with Urza, I'm kicking your ass for making Mira cry. Ha! Like you could ever do that. Gray laughed, as he turned back around. I can acknowledge Natsu and Gray's manliness, but I cannot let you say they're the strongest. Elfman said, crossing his arms over his chest. There are men in Fairy Tale that are much stronger than them, like me. Didn't Natsu take you out in one punch? Lucy pointed out, causing Elfman to hang his head in shame. I must agree that Urza is the strongest woman thought. Levy said, earning nods from Jet and Droy. If we're talking about men, there's Mystigan and Laxus. Jet said, as Droy leaned over his shoulder. Don't forget about Guildarts. Droy added in a low tone. I just thought Gray would get along with Natsu and Urza perfectly. Mira Jane said, as she wiped away her tears. Either way, this should be an interesting battle. Elfman said with a grin. Really? I'm expecting Urza to mop the floor with Natsu. Gray said with a small smirk. Back in the center of the crowd, Natsu and Urza were staring each other down. Urza had a small smile on her face, while Natsu had a massive toothy grin. Sparks danced off Natsu's hands, as he cracked his knuckles. Urza looked relatively calm, as her arms rested at her side. How long has been since we last fought, Natsu? Urza asked, causing Natsu to perk up. We haven't fought since we were kids. I've changed a lot since then, and I'll win today. Natsu exclaimed, as electricity sparked off his body. Then I'll take this serious too. Urza said, as her entire began to glow brightly. I want to test out my power as well. The armor Urza re-equipped into caused Lucy's eyes to widen. The breastplate was decorated by golden trimmings, and had thin plates going up to surround Urza's neck. The similarly adorned pauldrons were composed of two plates one over the other, with the top ones each sporting a prominent protrusion. Similar protrusions, although less prominent, can also be seen on the armored gauntlets which cover the entirety of her arms. The greaves, on the other hand, possessed matching protrusions on them, with a particularly large pair adorning the knee guards, but were instead composed of plates attached to simple, thigh-high boots with high heels. The armor lacked a waistguard, instead sporting a decorated cloth hanging down from the breastplate to cover Urza's groin, sporting a single piece on the top front and three on the back, which were decorated by large spheres with fur-like ornaments hanging from them. Urza's head was adorned with a band with two ribbons on it, and her hair was styled back in a long braid. The armor's weapon of choice seemed to be a long spear, with a very large blade and a decorated circle resembling a shield attached to the shaft, which was adorned by a large ribbon. Lightning Empress armor. A grin-spread smirk spread across Urza's face, as she stared at Natsu. Come at me with everything you've got, Natsu. Lightning Empress armor? A spectator in the crowd exclaimed. That armor is resistant to lightning attacks. The effects of Natsu's lightning will be cut in half. Another spectator yelled, causing a frown to spread across Happy's face. Urza! You're taking this too serious. Can I bet on Urza? Happy asked, as he handed Kana a handful of jewels. How can you be so heartless? Lucy yelled, as she grabbed Happy and pulled him away from Kana. I could never do something like that. I don't want either of them to lose. Well, there will be one winner and a loser, Gray said, as he prepared for the fight to start. Lucy, can I speak with you in private after this is all done? Mira Jane asked suddenly. Sure thing, Mira-san. Lucy replied in a confused tone. Perfect. Mira Jane thought, as a smirk spread across her face. Lightning Empress armor, huh? Natsu said, as a grin spread across his face. Bring it on. Lightning engulfed Natsu's hand, sending sparks flying all around him. Now I can go all out without any regrets. I like the sound of that, Urza said, as she entered into a fighting stance. I've been looking forward to this fight, Natsu. So give me your all. Are you both ready? Makarov asked, earning a nod from Natsu and Urza. Then begin. For a few tense moments no one moved. Suddenly Natsu shot forward, causing a loud thunderclap. Lightning Dragon's Iron Fist. Natsu roared, as he swung a lightning-coated fist at Urza. The knight raised her spear to block the attack, and was sent skidding back several feet. Quickly recovering, Urza stabbed her spear towards Natsu. But the Dragon Slayer ducked under her jab. Doing a quick somersault, Natsu used his gathered momentum and vaulted forward. Lightning Dragon's Claw. Urza barely managed to dodge Natsu's electrically charged foot, as it crashed into where she had been standing moments before. The ground underneath Natsu's foot exploded in a burst of electricity, as Urza put some distance between herself and Natsu. But Natsu was instantly charging towards Urza, this time flames licking his fists. Fire this time? Urza said, as her body was once again engulfed in bright light. Urza's new armor was predominantly dark red in color, but also had orange and black parts, with the orange parts being shaped like flames and the other parts being similar to a dragon's limbs. The armor consisted of a breastplate, gauntlets, and greaves. The breastplate lacked pauldrons, revealing Urza's shoulder, and it extended down to cover her groin, revealing her legs. The black portions of the armor appeared to be mostly decorative, with the exception of the portion covering her groin. The breastplate also possessed a pair of dragon-like wings attached to it. The gauntlets sported prominent orange decorations, along with small claw-like protrusions on the hands. The greaves were shaped like dragon's claws, which possessed orange-colored knee guards and black portions which extended up from the knees to her upper thighs. Also, while donning this armor, Urza's hair was tied into a pair of high, long pigtails. Her pigtails were held up by black clips, which resembled dragon's horns. Flame Empress armor. Urza managed to re-equip into her new armor just as Natsu's fist crashed into her chest. Even though the effectiveness of the flames was cut in half, Urza was still sent flying back by the force of Natsu's strike. Once again Natsu charged forward, but this Urza was ready. She quickly swept out Natsu's legs, causing him to fall to the ground. But to Urza's shock, Natsu recovered from the fall with incredible speed. Springing backwards off his hands, Natsu inhaled deeply. Sparks filled the air around Natsu as his cheeks bulged. Shit! It's lightning this time, Urza thought as she tried to switch armors. But Natsu was too quick for her re-equipped magic. Lightning Dragon's Roar. A stream of concentrated lightning shot from Natsu's mouth and struck Urza while she was in the middle of re-equipping her armor. The crowd gasped as Urza was sent flying backwards. Urza grunted in pain as she finished her re-equip. She landed back on the ground adorned in her Lightning Empress armor. But within seconds Natsu was on top of her once again. Urza's eyes widened when she saw Natsu's fists coated in fire. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Natsu's fist collided with Urza's stomach, knocking the wind out of the night. Urza went flying the crowd of onlookers and crashed into a nearby wall. When did Natsu get so fast? And since when could he switch between his magics so quickly? Urza thought through the pain as she watched Natsu shot towards her once more. Turning her head, Urza awaited the impact of Natsu's flame-covered fist. But the punch never came. Slowly opening her eyes, Urza saw Natsu's fire-coated fist inches from her face. Sweat poured off her brow as the heat from the flames hit her. The flames around Natsu's hand died down and he offered it to Urza. The Dragon Slayer grinned down at the night as she took his hand. Natsu pulled Urza to her feet, causing her to grunt in pain. Why didn't you finish me off? Urza asked, earning a laugh from Natsu. Why would I do something like that? Natsu laughed as he patted Urza's shoulder. We're just sparring, right? Plus why would I want to hurt my best friend? I guess I thank you for that, Urza said with a chuckle. Since when did you get so strong? I told you I've changed, Natsu said with a toothy grin. I'm a lot stronger than I used to be. That you are, Urza said with small smile. She was going to say more, but a sudden clapping stopped her. All right, that's enough, a voice from within the crowd said. The crowd separated to reveal an amphibian-like man standing in the middle of road. Nobody move. I'm a messenger from the council. The messenger pulled out a scroll and began to read its contents. With charges of property damage and 11 other crimes from the Eisenwald terrorism incident the other day, Urza Scarlet has been put under arrest. Eh? Urza squeaked as her eyes widened. What? Natsu roared in outrage. If you don't come quietly, your sentence will be doubled, the messenger said, causing Natsu's rage to increase. Why are you arresting Urza? Natsu yelled as he took a step forward. I'm the one who caused all that destruction. My orders are to arrest Urza Scarlet and her alone. If you'd like to argue this, you can speak with the council, the messenger said, causing Natsu to growl. Natsu, calm down, Urza said with a deep sigh. I'll go quietly. But Urza. Natsu, just stop, Urza said with a small smile. Everything will okay, I promise. Urza held out her hands and allowed the messenger to cuff her. Don't worry, I'll be back soon. As Natsu watched Urza be led off, he couldn't help the uneasy feeling in the pit of his stomach. 3 hours later, the mood in Fairy Tale was sullen as the guild's members all sat around quietly. Most of the mages were resting their heads on the tables. Everyone was upset about Urza's arrest, everyone except Natsu. The Dragon Slayer was leaning in a chair in the middle of the guild, and he appeared to be calm as ever. It almost seemed as if nothing had happened. This confused most of the guild members. They thought he'd be yelling and hollering to get Urza back. But he appeared to be perfectly fine. Something's not right, Mara Jane thought, as her eyes narrowed at Natsu. There's no way Natsu would be so calm right now. We'd usually have to be holding him down if something like this happened. Lucy all picked up on this well as she stared at the Dragon Slayer. Why isn't Natsu freaking out right now? I thought Urza was his best friend. TCH, even if something's white, once the council says it's black, then it becomes black. Gray said with frown, as he stared down at the table he was sitting at. They won't listen to anything we say. But why now? We've done so many other things in the past, why is this time so different? Elfman asked, resting his head in his hand. Yeah, it makes no sense. Loke said, as he rubbed his chin. I'm certain something fishy is going on here. Lucy said, as she rested her head on a table. When Lucy saw Natsu doing nothing, a sudden bout of anger flashed through her. I just can't leave her like that. Let's go testify on her behalf. Lucy slammed her hands on the table, and suddenly stood up. Have some patience, my dear. Makarov said, earning a glare from Lucy. What are you saying? She doesn't deserve this. Lucy exclaimed in an angry tone. We'll be too late if she's already sentenced. No matter how fast we try, we'd never get there in time. Makarov explained, his brows furrowing. Mira Jane once again looked at Natsu, and saw that he was unaffected by Lucy's outburst. Something is seriously wrong. If Lucy wanted to do something, Natsu would back her 100%. Something didn't feel right to the white-haired barmaid, so she decided to try some things out. Natsu, would you like something to eat? Mira Jane asked with a sweet smile, as she walked up to the dragon slayer. Nah, I'm fine, Mira-chan. Natsu said with a smile, as he turned to look at Mira Jane. Mira-chan? Lucy said with a confused look, as she turned to the dragon slayer. Natsu never calls Mira that. Lucy walked over to Natsu and glared at him. Okay, who are you? What are you talking about, Lucy? It's me. Natsu said in a confused tone. You two are acting weird. You're not calling me Luce now either, who the hell are you? Lucy asked, as she grabbed Natsu by the collar. Hey, are you feeling a light, Luce? Natsu stuttered out, as sweat began to form on his brow. What's up, Natsu? Cat got your tongue? Makarov asked with a small smile, as he suddenly blasted Natsu. The dragon slayer erupted into a cloud of smoke, before Macau fell onto the ground in Natsu's place. Macau! The entire guild yelled in shock. Sorry. Macau apologized, as he rubbed the back of his head. I owed Natsu a favor. So I transformed into him. Then where's the real Natsu? Lucy exclaimed in a worried tone. Don't tell me he went after Urza. Gray yelled, causing Macau to chuckle. Yeah, probably. Macau replied with small grin. This is no joke. He'll probably beat up the council members. Elfman exclaimed in a panic. Sit quiet, everyone. Makarov said, gaining everyone's attention. Just patiently wait for the outcome. All the guild members nodded, and sat back down to wait for news from the council. Lucy, may I speak with you now? Mira Jane asked, walking up to the blonde. Yeah, sure, Mira-san. Lucy answered, causing Mira Jane to smile. Great, then follow me to somewhere more private. Mira Jane said, as Lucy stood from her seat. The white-haired barmaid quickly led Lucy into a storage room near the back of the guild. Flicking on the lights, Mira Jane and Lucy sat down at a table near the back of the room. What did you want to talk about, Mira-san? Lucy asked, as she got comfortable in her seat. This. Mira Jane replied, placing a book on the table. Lucy picked up the book and read its title. Dragons and Dragon Slayers? What's this got to do with anything? Lucy asked, as she set the book back down. Lucy, I'm only going to ask you this one time, and I want a truthful answer from you. Mira Jane said, causing Lucy to quirk a blonde eyebrow. Do you love Natsu? WW what? Lucy squeaked, as her entire face burned bright red. Her palms immediately began to sweat under Mira Jane's gaze. Do you love Natsu? Mira Jane repeated, causing Lucy to squeak again. Why would you want to know if I love Natsu? Lucy stuttered, as she felt her face heat up. Because, I love him. Mary Jane answered with a faint blush, causing Lucy's eyes to widen. And I know Urza most likely loves him too. If love you in too, I think I may have found a way for all of us to be happy. Ha? Lucy said in a confused tone. What are you talking about? I think I've found a way for all three of us to be happy with Natsu, but first I need to know if you love him or not. Mary Jane explained, as she tapped the book on the table. Think I like. Lucy stopped when she saw the disappointed look on Mary Jane's face. No, damn it, I don't like him, I love him. I'm tired of dancing around my feelings, I love Natsu Dragneel. Lucy's voice was full of sincerity and conviction, and it caused Mary Jane to smile. Good, that's what I wanted to hear. Mary Jane said, flipping through the book. Finding the right page, Mary Jane handed it back to Lucy. Here, read this. Lucy took the book, and once again began to read it. Dragon mating and its relation to dragon slayers? Lucy read the title of the chapter, and looked at Mary Jane. That book explains how most dragons generally take on one mate. Mary Jane said, as her blush deepened at the mention of the word mate. This trait is passed on to dragon slayers as well. So a dragon slayer taught by a normal dragon will only have one mate in their whole life. They cannot and will not love any other person besides their mate. I don't see how that's going to help all three of us. Lucy said in a confused tone, as she flipped another page. She stopped when she saw the title of next section of the chapter. Dragon Kings? Yes, dragon mating changes slightly when it comes to dragon kings. Mary Jane explained, as Lucy began to read through the chapter. A dragon king usually has 2 to 3 mates to ensure that his magic is passed down to another generation. And Natsu was raised by 2 dragon kings. Lucy breathed out, as her eyes widened. So that means Natsu could have up to 6 potential mates. Exactly. It's not something Natsu can control. It's a side effect of his magic. It will drive him to claim mates, so that some of his children can learn his magic. Mary Jane explained, as Lucy started to understand what was happening better. There are some other things the book explains. It says that a dragon king usually picks a potential mate at first sight on instinct. The same applies to a dragon slayer. Once a potential mate has been chosen, the dragon does anything in its power to appease its potential mate. It will do its absolute best to keep its possible mates happy. Just like Natsu has been doing with us. Lucy said, as realization struck her. You think the 3 of us are potential mates? Yes, you've noticed the way Natsu treats us. How he does anything to make sure we're happy. Mary Jane said with a smile. I figured that if I could get you on board we could convince Urza as well. Because I honestly don't think she'd like to share Natsu. Well, if everything I read is true, then I'm in. I'm sure it won't be too bad to share Natsu. Lucy said with a small smile. But how are we gonna convince Urza? One of us is gonna have to mate with Natsu before she does. Mary Jane replied, causing Lucy's face to heat up. Once one of us has become Natsu's mate, Urza will be forced to either share Natsu or lose him forever. Which one of us gonna mate with Natsu first? Lucy asked in an embarrassed tone. I don't know, but we need Natsu to make the first move. Mary Jane explained, as she stood up from her seat. We can't just seduce Natsu, he has to initiate this with us. So we'll just have to wait until something happens. How long will that take? Lucy asked, as she stood up as well. I don't know, but we'll just have to be patient. Natsu isn't as ignorant towards women as he lets on. Mary Jane said, as she exited the supply room. We just have to hope he realizes his feelings for one of us. Okay, did that book say anything else? Lucy asked, as they stopped in the hallway. Just that when Natsu mates with Yus, we'll get a special mark to show that he's claimed us. Mary Jane explained with a slight blush. And that we should gain some of his dragon-like characteristics. Like what? Lucy asked, raising an eyebrow. Our senses will become heightened like Natsu's. It won't be quite to his level, but our sense of smell and hearing will supposedly drastically improve. Mira Jane explained, causing Lucy's eyes to widen. Wow, that sounds pretty cool, Lucy said, as she placed her hand on Mira Jane's shoulder. Thanks for including me, Mira-san. I don't think there's anyone else I'd rather share Natsu with than you and Urza. The same goes for me too, Lucy, Mira Jane said with a mischievous smile. But I doubt we'll be the only three to be with Natsu. Knowing him, he'll attract a few more girls as well. You're probably right, Lucy said with a chuckle. Well, let's get back, everyone is probably wondering where we went, Mira Jane said, leading Lucy back into the main guild hall. Magical Council, Fiore Branch. Urza had a frown on her face, as she was led through the Magical Council building. The knight stared at the floor with a look of annoyance on her face. As Urza and her escort neared the courtroom, she felt a strange presence in front of her. Looking up, Urza's eyes widened when she spotted a familiar blue-haired man. "See Grain!" Urza exclaimed in a shocked tone. Her escort immediately dropped to one knee and bowed to Seagrain. "Long time no see, Urza," Seagrain said in a smooth tone, as he pushed off the pillar he was leaning against. He looked towards Urza's escort and gestured for him to stand. "There is no need for that, this body is only a fake." Seagrain's body began to briefly flicker. "My real body is located elsewhere." Seagrain pointed his thumb toward the large doors behind them. "Those old geezers are using fake bodies as well. They couldn't be bothered to come all the way here for such a small case." "I see," Urza said with a slight growl, as she glared at Seagrain. "This is all you're doing? What bullshit! That's unexpected of you, Urza. I even spoke on behalf of Fairy Tale," Seagrain said with a smirk. "But the geezers feared that they'd be held responsible for the Eisenwald incident. So they needed a scapegoat to take the blame, and picked you." "Shut the hell up," Urza hissed, as she grit her teeth. "Alright, fine, the reason I came here before the trial started." Seagrain leaned forward and cupped Urza's chin. "Never tell the old geezers about that," Seagrain said before he whispered a few more words into Urza's ear. Urza had a blank look on her face as Seagrain stepped back. "It's for your own good. So, I'll be seeing you in a moment behind those doors, as a member of the council." Seagrain's body flickered for a moment, before it disappeared completely. "Why you know someone so important?" the escort asked, as he stood back to his feet. "He's evil," Urza said, as she glared at the doors in front of her. "Eh?" the escort said with a confused look. "Whatever, let's get going." The escort grabbed Urza's arm and led her into the courtroom. Urza took her place at the stand before the Magical Council. Most of the council members seemed to have annoyed looks on their faces. "We'll start this mage trial immediately," Grand Doma said, as he banged his gavel. He then picked up the paper and began to read off Urza's charges. Defendant Urza Scarlet. Concerning the terrorist incident involving Eisenwald the other day, you are charged with destroying part of Ashibana Station, Ryoshika Canyon's railway bridge, and an entire building in Clover Town. Grand Doma set the piece of paper down and stared at Urza. According to witness testimony, the culprit was a female mage in armor. Suddenly the wall behind Urza exploded in a ball of flames. "What's going on? I'm the armored mage," Natsu roared, as he stormed into the courtroom dressed in armor matching Urza's, a blue skirt, black boots, and even a red wig that didn't cover all of his pink hair. Natsu began to spew flames in random directions around the room as he approached the stand. "Arrest me if you dare." Urza couldn't help but giggle as she watched Natsu put on his little display. I knew he'd do something like this, Urza thought with a warm smile as she gazed at Natsu. "I'm Urza Scarlet, dammit!" Natsu yelled as smoke billowed from his mouth. "Tell me what I'm guilty of." All the council members stared at Natsu in shock, except for Seagrain, who seemed to be rather amused by the stunt. "I hope the charges are even more important than the guild masters' lives," Natsu yelled, pointing at the council members. A grin spread across the Dragon Slayer's face as he stood next to Urza. The entire courtroom lay in smoking ruins, as Grand Doma ran his hand down his face. Put them both in jail. Grand Doma simply said, as a pair of guards cuffed Natsu. We're, PFFF, very sorry. Urza managed to say in a somewhat apologetic tone, as she tried to control her giggling. Urza! Don't apology to these guys. Natsu exclaimed, before he quickly realized his mistake. Wait. I'm Urza, Natsu screamed, causing Urza to go into another fit of giggles. Let's go, you two, you're spending the next 2 days in a cell. One of the guards said, as he pushed Natsu and Urza towards the doors. All right, we're going. Urza said with a smile. Come on, Natsu, let's go. I'm Urza. 2 hours later. It was well into the night, and Natsu and Urza sitting across from one another in cell located in the council building. Urza had a small smile on her face as she looked at Natsu. The Dragon Slayer was sitting against the wall, with his hands behind his head. You know, my arrest was just a formality, and it was just a facade for the council to display its authority. Urza said, causing a grin to spread across Natsu's face. Yeah, I know. Natsu said, making Urza's eyes widen. If you knew, why did you pull that stunt back there? Urza asked with a hint of annoyance. Well, even if it was just a facade, you don't deserve all the blame. Natsu said, as he scratched his chin. I caused even more destruction than you, so I deserve some punishment too. A blush suddenly spread across Natsu's face, as he looked at the cell wall. Plus I felt like you could use some company. Natsu, that's so sweet of you. Urza said, as she felt tears forming in her left eye. Her heart filled with joy, as her own cheeks flushed pink. Thank you. Urza leaned forwards, and brought Natsu in for a tight hug. I don't know what I'd do without you, Natsu. Don't know what I'd do without you, Urza. Natsu said, as he hugged Urza back. You're my best friend, and I'd do anything for you. You would, wouldn't you? Urza thought with a smile on her face. Soon, Natsu, I'll tell you my feelings for you soon. I just have to wait for the right moment. Down the hall, Seagrain watched the two fairy tale mages with a dark smirk on his face. So he was at Fairy Tale. Seagrain said to himself quietly. Natsu Dragneel. Chapter 11, The Cursed Island. 2 days later. We're back. Natsu yelled as he kicked the doors to the guild open. What did I say about kicking the doors open? Urza said, as she smacked Natsu upside the head. Sorry, Urza. Natsu said with nervous chuckle, as he rubbed his head. It's fine, just try not to do it again. Urza said with a smile, walking into the guild. Natsu! Urza! Lucy exclaimed, as she ran up to both mages. Natsu and Urza were both surprised when Lucy pulled them in for a hug. It's so good to have you two back. It's great to be back, Luce. Natsu exclaimed with a toothy grin. Indeed, I'm happy to back to at the guild as well. Urza said, as she crossed her arms under her chest. Oh, you two are back. Mira Jane said with a small smile, as she appeared from behind the bar. I'm glad both of you are all right. Of course we're all right, Mira, nothing could hurt us. Natsu said in a confident tone, and puffing out his chest. Whatever you say, Natsu. Mira Jane chuckled, as she walked up to the Dragon Slayer. Would you two like anything to celebrate your return? I'll take a fire whiskey. Natsu said, as he took a seat at the bar. Piece of strawberry cake for me. Urza said, sitting next to Natsu. Coming right up. Mira Jane said cheerfully, leaving to fill the orders. TCH, the flame-brained idiot is back. Gray chided with an annoyed look on his face. Why couldn't they have kept you two in jail a little longer? Did you say something, Gray? Urza said in an emotionless tone, as she turned to glare at the ice mage. And nothing, Urza. Gray exclaimed, flinching under the scarlet-haired woman's harsh gaze. Here you two go. Mira said, placing a flaming drink in front of Natsu and large piece of strawberry cake in front of Urza. Thanks, Mira. both mages said simultaneously. Natsu took a large gulp of his drink and slammed the mug back down onto the bar. Freedom is wonderful! Natsu yelled as he spewed a small amount of fire. The air is so much fresher out here. It's really the best. So what happened to you two? Lucy asked, taking a seat next to Urza. Nothing much. Urza answered, as she ate a forkful of cake. The whole arrest was just a facade, really. I would have been back yesterday if Natsu hadn't caused such a ruckus. Hey! It wasn't fair how they singled you out. I deserved some of the blame as well. Natsu exclaimed, as he nursed his whiskey. You shouldn't have to take the blame for my mess. Ah, that was really sweet of you, Natsu. Lucy said with smile, causing Natsu's face to turn red in embarrassment. Whatever happened to Natsu and Urza's fight? Elfman asked, as he turned to the mages in question. You just kinda ended it, Natsu. It was just a spar, Elfman. We weren't really giving it our all. Natsu explained, causing Urza to nearly choke on the cake in her mouth. He wasn't going all out. Urza thought, as she roughly swallowed her cake. She turned to Natsu and stared at him with wide eyes. I was giving everything I had in that fight, and he beat me like he wasn't even trying. Just how strong have you gotten, Natsu? Since it was just a spar, there isn't really a winner or loser. Natsu said, shrugging his shoulders. He then turned to Urza with a wicked grin on his face. Unless you want to fight for real now, Urza. Not now, Natsu, I'm really tired. Urza said, as she ate another forkful of cake. If we fight for real, the results will likely be the same, so it's pointless right now. Come on. It'll be fun. Natsu yelled, as he pushed away from the bar and stood to his feet. Here I come. Natsu then swung at Urza with a flame-covered fist. Urza quickly ducked underneath Natsu's punch and hit him with an uppercut to the jaw. The Dragon Slayer was sent flying back by the punch, causing Natsu to crash into a table. Urza then walked over to the dazed Dragon Slayer and hauled him to him feet by his ear. I said I don't want to fight now. Sorry, Urza. Natsu said in a defeated tone as he rubbed his sore ear. Geez, looks like Urza is still stronger than your stupid ass. Gray said in an amused tone. I guess that spar really meant nothing. Shut up, you fucking stripper. Natsu roared as he butted heads with Gray. I'll kick your ass anytime, anyplace. Sounds like a planned matchstick. Gray yelled as he grabbed Natsu's vest. My, looks like you guys wrecked the guild again. Mira Jane said with a slight chuckle. HRMM. Makarov grumbled, causing Mira Jane to look at him. What's wrong, Master? Mira Jane asked as she walked over to Makarov. Nothing. Just getting a little sleepy is all. Makarov replied as he slouched over slightly. It's him. One by one all around the guild, the fairy tale mages began to fall asleep where they stood. This has to be. Gray mumbled before he fell over, fast asleep. I will see him. I'm stronger than I was before. I'm not gonna fall asleep. Natsu thought as he fought to stay awake. The Dragon Slayer was struggling to keep his eyes open, as he used a table to hold himself upright. Suddenly the doors to the guild creaked open, and a cloaked figure entered the guild. The cloaked man slowly walked through the guild, being careful to walk around the sleeping mages. The man stopped momentarily to look at Natsu. He seemed slightly surprised that the Dragon Slayer was still awake, just barely. Natsu's eyes widened when he caught a glimpse of the man's face. He could have sworn he spotted a familiar red tattoo, and a few locks of blue hair. I'm impressed you're still awake, Natsu. The man said in a deep voice. The mask he was wearing muffled his voice. Show me your farce. Natsu stumbled over his words as he tried to stay awake. The Dragon Slayer narrowed his eyes at the man before him. In due time, Natsu. The man said as he continued walking past the Dragon Slayer. Suddenly the masked man stopped and turned to Natsu once more. Oh, I heard about your little match with Urza. I must say I'm rather impressed. Maybe we can spar some time in the future. Sure Tion. Natsu managed to say, as he forced a lazy grin on his face. That can't be who I think it is. Natsu thought, as he watched the man scan over the request board. The cloaked man grabbed a request and made his way over towards Makarov. That can't be Jalal, can it? I'm sure I would have recognized his scent. Plus I don't think Jalal can use magic. I will find out who you are, Mistigan. I'm taking this mission. Mistigan said, as he showed Makarov the request. I'm leaving now. At least undo your sleeping magic. Makarov exclaimed groggily, as his eyes began to droop. 5, 4, 3. Mistigan began to count down, making his way towards the guild's doors. He spared Natsu one last glance, as he passed the Dragon Slayer. Mistigan nodded at Natsu before he continued walking. 2, 1. As soon as the countdown finished, Mistigan was gone without a trace. Moments after Mistigan vanished, his sleep magic wore off. One by one the members of Fairy Tail began to awake from their abrupt slumber. That must have been Mistigan. Urza groaned out, as she hoisted herself off the ground. What punk? Gray exclaimed, as he rubbed his head. Who's Mistigan? Lucy asked, as she rubbed her eyes. He's a candidate for Fairy Tail's strongest mage. Loke said, adjusting his glasses. For some reason he hates being seen. Gray explained, as he walked over to Lucy. So whenever he comes to take a job, he put everyone to sleep. Lucy nodded, and turned her head to look at Natsu. The Dragon Slayer had thoughtful expression on his face, as he stared at the doors Mistigan walked through. Well, that sounds kind of fishy to me. Lucy said, as she placed her hands on her hips. That's why only the master has seen Mistigan's face. Gray said, causing Lucy to raise an eyebrow. Before Lucy could say anything, a new voice echoed out through the guild hall. No. The new voice said in a smug tone. I know his face as well. Everyone turned to see a large blonde-haired man standing on the second floor. The man had a cigar hanging from his mouth, and a smirk plastered on his face. And it seems Natsu may have caught a glimpse as well. Laxus? Several guild members exclaimed in shock. How unusual. He's never here. What did he say about Natsu? He's also a candidate for Fairy Tail's strongest. Gray said, turning to look at Lucy. Mistigan is very shy. Don't question it too much. Laxus said, as he rested his head on his hand. Laxus. Natsu growled in a low tone, as sparks danced around his body. Fight me. I heard about your little fight with Urza. Laxus said with a smug look, as he gazed down at Natsu. I must say that I'm surprised that you managed to beat her. But don't think you can come and challenge me just because you beat a weakling like her. What did you say? Natsu in a dark tone, as a vein throbbed on his forehead. His eyes were full of fury, as he glared up at Laxus. It's one thing to insult me. But it's another when you insult one of my Nakama, especially Urza. Lightning exploded off Natsu's body, causing several guild members to jump back. You will fight me, and I will beat you into the ground for insulting Urza's strength. Natsu. Urza thought, as she stared at the Dragon Slayer. The knight could literally feel the hatred rolling off Natsu, as he glared at Laxus. Urza was slightly worried that Natsu might end up getting hurt. But she was mostly taken aback by how enraged Natsu became after Laxus insulted her. Oh. Someone's a little upset. Laxus taunted with a smug look. I'm the strongest mage in this guild, you don't stand a chance against me. Why don't you come down here and test that theory? Natsu exclaimed, as he clenched his fists. Why don't you come up here? Laxus said, as he gestured to the second floor. Fine, you son of a bitch. Natsu snarled, as he raced towards Laxus. Just as Natsu was about to leap up to the second floor, Makarov's enlarged hand shot out, and slammed Natsu back down to the ground. You can't go up to the second floor, yet. Makarov said, as he released Natsu. Ha! Getting scolded like a little brat, and you thought you could take me on? Laxus jeered, as he leaned over the railing. You two Laxus, stop it. Makarov said, as he turned his gaze to Laxus. I'll never give up the position of Fairy Tail's strongest mage to anyone. Laxus said, as he gazed down at all the mages watching him. Not to Urza, Mystigan, Gildarts, and especially not to you Natsu. I'm the strongest. Not for long. Natsu said under his breath, as he watched Laxus walk away from the railing. 2 hours later. Mira-san, what was Master talking about earlier? Why couldn't Natsu go up to the second floor? Lucy asked, as Mira severed her a drink. You're not ready for what's up on the second floor yet, Lucy. Mira Jane explained, as she pointed up to the second floor. But the request board on the second floor has far more difficult jobs posted on it. They're S-class jobs. S-class? Lucy exclaimed in a shocked tone. S-class missions are so dangerous, even the slightest mistake can lead to your death. But in return the pay is outstanding. Mira Jane explained with a smile, as she cleaned a beer mug. Only mages approved by Master can take S-class jobs. There are currently only 5 S-class mages including Urza, Mystigan, and Laxus. Mira Jane put the mug down, and leaned forward towards Lucy. You shouldn't aim to be S-class anyways, Lucy. You'll run out of lives way too quickly on those jobs. Aren't you an S-class mage? Lucy asked, causing a sad smile to spread across Mira Jane's face. I'm guessing Natsu told you that. Mira said with a dry chuckle. I was an S-class mage, but after Lisanna died, I kinda just gave up on being an active mage. But I guess I'm technically still an S-class mage. Do you ever miss being a mage? Lucy questioned, taking a sip of her drink. Sometimes. It would be great to go on missions with Natsu and Urza. Mira Jane said with a wistful look. But I do enjoy tending the bar here. It lets me gossip with everyone, and it makes me happy. That's great then. Lucy said with a smile, as she stood from the bar. Well, I'm heading home, Mira-san. Lucy grabbed her bag, and was about to leave. But she remembered something she wanted to ask Mira. Oh, Mira-san. Have you seen Natsu? Because he kinda just disappeared a while ago? He stormed out of the guildhall about an hour ago. Mira Jane replied, as she tapped her chin. It probably had something to do with Laxus. Okay, maybe I'll see him on the way home. Lucy said, as she turned to leave. Remember Lucy, Natsu has to be the one to initiate things. Mira Jane said, just before Lucy got too far away. Why yeah, I remember. Lucy stuttered out, as her entire face burned bright red. Mira Jane couldn't help but giggle, as she watched Lucy run out of the guild. Lucy ran out of the guild as fast as she could, earning several glances from her fellow guild members. When Lucy was a safe distance away, she stopped running and let a deep sigh. Lucy then began to walk home, as she tried to control her raging blush. As Lucy neared her home, she began to walk on the edge of the canal in front of her home. I know I've heard of Mystigan and Laxus before. Lucy said, sticking her arms out to help her balance. Fairy Tail is full of powerful mages. Please be careful, miss. A boater called out, as he sailed down the canal. I'll just have to work harder starting tomorrow, so that I can become one of Fairy Tail's strongest mages. Lucy cheered, as she ascended the stairs to her apartment. As Lucy reached for the doorknob, she could faintly hear movement in her apartment. I bet it's Natsu. But when Lucy opened her door, her jaw nearly hit the floor. Splayed out on the floor in front of her was Natsu. The pink-haired dragon slayer was missing his vest, as he rapidly did crunches. Lucy couldn't stop herself from watching the sweat roll down Natsu's toned chest. The blonde could swear she was drooling, as another massive blush spread across her face. Fuck letting him start things, I might just jump him right now. Lucy thought, as her head filled with images of her and Natsu doing dozens of sexual deeds. Quickly shaking her head, Lucy forced those thoughts out of her mind. No. Bad Lucy. Remember what Mira-san said. If we want Urza to join yous, I have to let Natsu make the first move. Damn it, Natsu, why do you have to be so tempting? Lucy's eyes widened when she saw Natsu look at her. Shit. 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 He's looking right at me. What do I do? I know, I'll act pissed like usual. Welcome back. Natsu said mid-crunch. Aye, sir. Happy cheered, as he lifted a dumbbell. Your sweat stinks. Lucy screamed, as she jumped on Natsu's chest. The blonde inhaled through her nose, and a shiver ran down her spine. Oh God, it smells so manly and erotic. Lucy hopped off Natsu, and pointed angrily towards her door. Go exercise at your own home. What are you talking about? We're a team. Natsu said with a toothy grin, as he grabbed a pink dumbbell. This is for you. You like pink, right? Happy asked, jumping into the air. What am I gonna do with dumbbells? Lucy yelled, keeping up her false anger. I have to get stronger so that I can beat Laxus. Natsu said, as he dropped to the ground and began to do one-armed push-ups. Lucy bit her lips, as she watched Natsu's back muscles flexing. Fighting back a moan, Lucy turned her back to Natsu. Please just go home. Lucy managed to say, as her entire face turned red. We're gonna stay here and train all night. Happy said, while doing his own push-ups. I've made a decision, Luce. Natsu said, as he stopped mid-push-up. Lucy turned around, and gave the pink-haired dragon slayer a confused look. Natsu looked up at Lucy with a large smirk on his face. We're doing an S-class job. Lucy's eyes bulged when she saw Happy hold up an S-class request form. How the fuck did you get that? Lucy screamed in a panicked tone, as his eyes bugged out. We're not supposed to be on the second floor. I just took it. Happy said, looking at the request. You thieving cat! Lucy yelled, as she tried to snatch the request, but Happy quickly flew out of her reach. Since it's our first job from the second floor, I choose the cheapest one. Natsu said, putting his vest back on, much to Lucy's disappointment. It's still 7 million jewels though. No. We're not qualified to take on S-class missions. Lucy argued, crossing her arms under her chest. But if we succeed, Ji-chan will defiantly approve us, right? Natsu asked with a wide grin. Geez, you're so reckless. Lucy said with a sigh, as she sat down at her writing desk. At least follow the rules of your own guild. But then we'll never be to go up to the second floor. Natsu said, as he walked over to Lucy. Whatever, I'm not going. Lucy said, resting her head on her hand. You two can go. But it says save our island on the request. Happy said, pointing to the writing on the request form. Come Luce, let's go. We're a team, right? Natsu said with a smile, as he rested a hand on her shoulder. Island? Lucy parroted, raising an eyebrow. It's the cursed Galuna Island. Happy said in a spooky tone. Yeah, fuck that, I'm defiantly not going now. Lucy said, as she leaned back in her chair. But Luce, there's another reward. Natsu said, gaining Lucy's interest. The Dragon Slayer grabbed the request form from Happy, and showed it to Lucy again. The other reward is one of those gold keys you've been looking for. A smirk spread across Natsu's face when he saw Lucy's eyes light up. Got her now. I'm in. Lucy cheered, as she jumped out of her seat. That's what I'm talking about. Natsu exclaimed, as he high-fived Lucy. Let's get going. What about Urza? Lucy asked, causing Natsu to stop dead in his tracks. I kinda didn't tell Urza. Natsu said sheepishly, as he scratched his chin. We're doing this job without her, because she'd never let me go. What? Lucy yelled, but before she could argue, Natsu had already jumped out her window. Use the damn door. The blonde celestial spirit mage grumbled to herself, as she quickly followed after the dragon slayer. The next day at Fairy Tale. Oh no! Mira Jane yelled as she raced down the stairs. Master! One of the requests on the second floor is missing. Makarov spit out the beer was drinking when he heard this. Oh that! Laxus said with a small smirk, as he leaned back in his chair. A few hours ago I saw a blue cat stealing one of the requests. I'm pretty sure the cat had wings. Happy? Mira Jane exclaimed with a worried look. That means Natsu and Lucy were likely involved as well. Alzak said with a frown. What are they thinking? I knew they were stupid, but not that stupid. Biska said, as she adjusted her cowboy hat. They broke a principal rule of this guild. Laxus said, taking a puff from his cigar. Hey old man. When they return they'll get expelled, right? But I doubt they'll come back alive from an S-class job with their pathetic skills. Laxus laughed loudly, but he stopped when someone slammed their hands on the table he was sitting at. Looking up, Laxus was surprised to see Mira Jane glaring at him. Her eyes were full of anger, as her fists clenched. Laxus! If you knew about this, why didn't you stop them? Mira Jane yelled in an angry tone. I just thought it was a thieving cat, running off with a piece of paper in its mouth. Laxus replied with an evil smirk. I had no idea it was happy, and that Natsu would run off with an S-class job. Everyone's eyes widened when the table Laxus was sitting at suddenly exploded into a pile of splinters. Laxus smirked, as he looked up at Mira Jane. The white-haired barmaid held a fierce glare, as a dark aura surrounded her. Laxus laughed, as he blew out a cloud of smoke. Oh? It's been a while since I saw that face from you, Mira. You better pray Natsu, Lucy, and Happy make it back alright, or I will destroy you. Mira Jane said in a dark tone, as her eyes narrowed. This is bad indeed. Which job is missing? Makarov asked, as he turned to look at Mira Jane. The cursed Galuna Island job. Mira Jane answered, causing Makarov's eyes to widen. The Island of Demons. Makarov exclaimed, earning a collective gasp from the guild. Laxus, bring them back. Don't be stupid, I have another job to do. Laxus said, as he stood up from his seat. They can take care of themselves, right? Who else but you can force Natsu back? Markov shouted, causing Laxus to laugh. What about Ursha? Kana drunkenly suggested. She's not here right now. Mira Jane said, as she continued to glare at Laxus. G-san, that's an unforgivable insult. Gray said, as he pushed out his chair. I'll bring Lucy and that flame-brained idiot back. 5 hours later, Port of Harjan. It's been a while since we've been here. Lucy exclaimed, as she scanned around the town. This is where reunited, right? Haven't been here for a while, we were just here like 2 weeks ago, Luce. Natsu said with a deadpan look. Alright, first we have to find a ship that can take us to Galuna Island. Lucy said, as she started to walk towards the docks. But the blonde squeaked in surprise when Natsu suddenly grabbed her shoulders. A ship? Can't we just swim there? Natsu pleaded, earning a sigh from Lucy. Natsu, that's not happening. Lucy said, as she pinched the bridge of her nose. I know how to help you with your motion sickness, so why is this a problem? Well, I didn't want you to have to do that. Natsu said, as he rubbed the back of his head. Just shut up, and help me find us a boat. Lucy said, as she quickly turned her head to hide her slight blush. After asking almost a dozen sailors, Natsu and Lucy still didn't have a ride to Galuna Island. Deciding to try one more time, the duo approached another sailor. Lucy tapped the mustached man's shoulder, gaining his attention. Excuse us, sir, but could you give us a ride to Galuna Island? Galuna Island? The man parroted, scratching his chin. I don't know what you think you'll find there, but no sailor wants to go near there. Even pirates avoid that place. Damn it! Lucy cursed, as she slumped against a nearby wall. I guess we're swimming then. Natsu said with a smile, as he patted Lucy's back. Swim? That's suicide, unless you're not afraid of giant sharks. The sailor said, turning back to the fairy tale mages. Damn straight I'm not afraid. I'll fry those stupid sharks. Natsu exclaimed, as he shook his fist. You can't use fire while in water. Lucy said with a sweat drop. Natsu was about to argue, but Lucy stopped him. If you use your lightning you'll electrocute me as well, so don't even think about it. Sai, what do we do now? Found ya. A voice said from behind Natsu and Lucy, causing them to jump. They both whirled around to see Gray standing behind them. Gray? Lucy exclaimed, surprised to see the ice mage. What are you doing here? Natsu yelled in an annoyed tone. Master ordered me to bring you two back. Gray said, leaning towards Natsu. What? He already found out. Natsu exclaimed wide-eyed. If you come back now, you might avoid expulsion. Gray said with a small smirk. Expulsion. Lucy said, fear evident in her tone. I don't care. I'm gonna do this S-class job. Natsu growled, as he glared at Gray. It's called S-class for a reason, dumbass. Gray exclaimed, trying to persuade the stubborn dragon slayer. What will you do when Urza finds out? She'll come here and try to drag us back. Natsu replied, causing Gray to raise an eyebrow. But one of the reasons I'm doing this mission is because of her. What are you talking about, Natsu? Lucy asked, placing her hand on Natsu's shoulder. I know Urza wouldn't approve of me doing this, and I know she'll worry about me. Natsu clenched his teeth, as he tried to reel in his anger. But that bastard Laxus insulted her, and I won't stand for that. I need to show Laxus that I'm strong enough to fight him. If being S-class will convince him to fight me, then I'm finishing this mission. Natsu. Lucy whispered in shock. She knew that Natsu and Urza were extremely close, but she had no idea he'd be willing to risk his life just to defend Urza's honor. He's the most caring person I've ever met. Well, it's the master's orders. I'm bringing you two back. Gray exclaimed, as ice began to form in his hands. Don't bitch about it if you get hurt. You wanna fight? Natsu yelled, as flames burst of his hands. Hey, you two calm down. Lucy exclaimed, trying to defuse the situation. Magic? The sailor from earlier said, as his eyes widened. You guys are mages? Are you here to stop the curse? Yeah. Natsu exclaimed with a grin. Why yeah, we're here to help. Even though I'm not too confident anymore. Lucy said the last part under her breath. Great. Then everyone hop in. The sailor said, as he stepped onto his boat. I won't let you go. Gray yelled, as he glared at Natsu. The dragon slayer merely grinned, and hit Gray with a surprise roundhouse kick to the face. The ice mage was instantly rendered unconscious. Natsu then grabbed Gray off the ground, and tossed him onto the boat. Wait, why are you bringing Gray? Lucy asked in a confused tone. If he goes back to the guild he'll bring Urza, and others to bring us back. Natsu explained, as he leaned Gray against the side of the boat. Sailor man. Take us to Galuna Island. The man nodded, and pushed the boat off the dock. The second the boat started moving, Natsu was hanging over the side of the boat, trying to not vomit. God, you're hopeless. Lucy said with a chuckle, hoisting Natsu onto her lap. The pink-haired dragon slayer released a content sigh, as he felt Lucy's fingers beginning to comb through his hair. Is he be alright? The sailor asked, confused by Natsu's sudden motion sickness. Aye, sir. Natsu is always like this. Happy cheered, causing everyone to sweat drop. 15 minutes later. Ugh, what the fuck happened? Gray groaned, as he slowly shook his head. But when he tried to raise his arms, he found that he couldn't move them. Eyes shooting open, Gray saw that he was tied up. What the shit? Hey Gray. Lucy said, as she awkwardly waved at the ice mage. Lucy, untie me. Gray yelled as he struggled against his bindings. Not until we get to the island, Lucy said, as she continued to comfort Natsu. Turning to look at the island in front of them, a sudden chill ran down Lucy's spine. I'm getting this creeping feeling of anxiety. You dragged me along, and now you're talking like that? Gray growled, as he once again struggled against the ropes tying him up. After a few moments, Gray gave up, and turned to the sailor steering the boat. Hey old man, why did you let us on this boat anyways? My name is Bobo, I once lived on Galuna Island. The newly named Bobo replied, causing Lucy's eyes to widen. But I managed to escape from that cursed place. What kind of curse is it? Happy asked, looking away from the school of fish he had been drooling over. Misfortune falls upon all those who step foot on Galuna Island, Bobo replied, as he gazed at the island they were approaching. Can you guys really rid this island of its curse? Bobo pulled down his sleeve, revealing a deformed-looking arm. This demonic curse. Both Gray and Lucy's eyes widened at the sight of the demonic arm. That arm, Gray said, as he slowly backed away from Bobo. The curse, you mean it? Lucy tried to speak, as she stared at Bobo's demonic arm. There it is, Bobo said, as he pointed to the island in front of them. Galuna Island. Gray, Lucy, and Happy moved to the front of the ship to get a good look at the island. Hey, sir, Lucy started to say, but when she turned around, Bobo was nowhere to be found. Ha? Where is he? Did he fall in the water? Gray asked, as he looked over the boat's side. Happy quickly dove into the water, and began to search for Bobo. But after about a minute, Happy resurfaced. I don't think he's down there, Happy said, beginning to swim back to the boat. What? What's going on? Lucy exclaimed, as she began to pull on her hair. As Lucy was freaking out, Natsu's ears perked up at a sudden sound. Gee guys, what's that noise? Natsu managed to say through his motion sickness. Gray and Lucy turned around, and gasped when they saw a massive tidal wave surging towards them. Shit! It's a tidal wave! Gray screamed, as he frantically tried to break the ropes around his arms. Hey, hurry up and untie me. I'm gonna die. We're getting sucked in, Lucy yelled, as the boat started moving towards the tidal wave. Happy, try to lift the boat up. That's impossible, Happy exclaimed, the wave sucking him up as well. The massive tidal wave sucked up the boat and Happy. Lucy closed her eyes and held Natsu tightly, as the tidal wave raced towards the island. With a loud crash, the tidal wave smashed into the island, scattering the fairy tale mages across the beach and knocking them unconscious in the process. 20 minutes after their rough landing on the beach, Lucy slowly regained consciousness. This is... Lucy scanned her surroundings, and saw Natsu, Gray, and Happy lying next to the destroyed remains of their boat. Are you guys okay? Whoa! Are we on Galuna Island? Natsu exclaimed, as he jumped to his feet. I guess the tidal wave washed us ashore, Lucy said, as she walked over to the other mages. What happened anyway? That arm, the demonic curse? Lucy rubbed her chin, as she tried to make sense of the situation. And then that old man just disappeared. Don't worry, Luce. Let's explore. Natsu cheered, as he began to walk off into the nearby jungle. Aye, sir, Happy exclaimed, quickly following after Natsu. Natsu, we're here on a job, so you should be a little more concerned, Lucy explained, as she grabbed Natsu's arm. There's supposed to be a village on this island. The mayor there is our client. We should go there first. Wait, Gray said, as he slowly got to his feet. Oh, come on. We've come this far, you aren't taking us back, Natsu yelled, as he glared at Gray. No, Gray said, as he dusted off his jacket. I'm coming with you guys. Natsu and Lucy's eyes widened at this revelation. It'd piss me off if you two got to the second floor before I did, and if you two got expelled, the guild would get rather boring. A grin spread across Natsu and Lucy's faces as they high-fived. Let's go. Yeah. Lucy, Natsu, and Happy cheered, before they began to make their way towards the village on the island. After searching around, the fairy tale mages finally stumbled upon a massive wooden fence. Stepping closer, they spotted a sign that read "Keep out" on the gates. Keep out? What kind of village is this? Gray asked with a frown. Excuse us. Lucy yelled as she knocked on the gate. Could you please open the gate? TCH, let's just break it down. Natsu suggested, earning him a smack upside the head from Lucy. Can you not think about blowing things up for 5 minutes? Lucy scolded, earning a pout from the dragon slayer. Suddenly 2 men appeared on the gate above the fairy tale mages. Who's there? One of the men asked, looking down at the small group. We're mages from Fairy Tale. Lucy replied, gesturing to the rest of the group. We saw your request and came here to help. Fairy Tale? The man parroted in a confused tone. We didn't know anything about you accepting our request. I think there was some confusion. Gray said, as he crossed his arms over his chest. If we can't get in, we'll just leave. I'm not leaving. Natsu hissed at the ice mage. Shut up. Gray whispered as he elbowed Natsu in the stomach. Show me your guild marks. The man said, narrowing his eyes. The fairy tale mages all showed the man their guild marks. The man nodded and turned to the other guard that was with him. Their marks look real. Strip the girl. The other guard said, causing a tick mark to form on Natsu's head. That's not happening. Natsu yelled as he stepped in front of Lucy. The dragon slayer growled as he glared at the gate guard. I'd advise you keep your mouth shut. I'm sorry about him, he just got carried away. The first guard said as he pushed the other man out of the way. He quickly pulled a lever, and the gate began to open. Get in, I'll go and get the chief. 5 minutes later, the fairy tale mages were standing in the middle of the village. The entire village seemed to be gathered around the mages. All of the villagers were wearing robes, concealing their appearance. Thank you all for coming here, mages. I am Mocha, chief of this village. Mocha said, as he approached the mages. I apologize if this seems sudden, but you must see something. Everyone take off your robes. All of the villagers slowly stripped off their robes. Lucy gulped when she saw that each of the villagers had various demonic body parts. I knew it. Gray said, crossing his arms over his chest. Does this not surprise you? Mocha said, showing off his own demonic arm. Everyone on this island, even the dogs and birds, are affected by this curse. I'm questioning you, but what makes you think there's a curse on this island? Gray asked the village chief. Couldn't it just be some type of disease? I've this to many doctors? Mocha replied, holding up his demonic arm. But they all said there's no such disease. Also, the moon's magical power has something to do with how we look. Moon's magical power? Lucy repeated with a confused look. Ever since ancient times, this island has accumulated moonlight. This made the island so beautiful that it shined like the moon. Mocha explained, as he glanced up at the moon overhead. But a few years ago, the moonlight started to turn purple. Purple? I've never seen anything like that. Natsu said, as he scratched his head. People from the mainland all say that, but the moon did purple on this island. After the purple moon showed up, our bodies started to change. Mocha explained, just as Happy looked up into the sky. The blue cat gasped when he saw the moon. Guys! The moon is up! Happy exclaimed, as he pointed at the moon in the night sky. It's true, it's purple. Lucy said with a slight gasp. Man, that's creepy. Gray said, the moon's appearance sending a chill down his spine. This is the curse of the moon's magical power. Mocha said before he gasped in pain. Soon all the villagers around the fairy tale mages began to howl in pain, as their bodies began to change. What's going on? Natsu yelled, as he watched the villagers' bodies beginning to change. A few moments everything began to die down. Now instead of having single body parts being demonic, all the villagers fully turned into demons. "Sorry if we scared you," Mocha said in an apologetic tone. "When the purple moon comes out, our bodies into these ugly demons." Natsu had a sympathetic look, as he watched several of the villagers break down into tears. Once it becomes morning everyone will change back to their original forms, but recently, there were some people who didn't change back and they lost their souls. "That can't be," Lucy said in a shocked tone. "We decided to kill anyone who'd lost their soul and turned into a real demon," Mocha explained, causing Natsu to clench his fists in anger. "You killed them, even when there's a chance they might change back to their original form," Natsu yelled, anger evident in his eyes. "If we'd let them live, others might have been killed by those demons," Mocha replied, as he lowered his gaze to the ground. "And even if we locked them up, they'd just break out and escape." Mocha reached and pulled a picture out of his pocket. A tear fell from Mocha's eye when he showed the picture to the fairy tale mages. That's why I had to kill my own son as well. My son, whose soul became evil. But yesterday," Lucy said in a shocked tone, as she stared at the photo. The picture was of Bobo, the sailor who had brought them to the island. "We..." Before Lucy could say any more, Gray stopped her. "Shoo," Gray said, silencing Lucy immediately. He then turned to the blonde and spoke to her in a quiet tone. "I guess we know why he just vanished now. Hopefully he can rest in peace now." He was a G-ghost? Lucy thought, as goosebumps formed all over her body. "I acknowledge that you all as famous mages. Please save our island," Mocha begged, bowing to the fairy tale mages. "If this goes on much longer, everyone will lose their souls and turn into demons." "I won't let that happen," Natsu exclaimed, his voice full of determination. "We'll save you guys and this island. There is only one way to remove this curse," Mocha explained, pointing towards the moon. "Please destroy the moon." "What?" Gray and Lucy yelled in shock. "I like the sound of that," Natsu cheered, punching a flaming fist into his palm. Chapter 12, Moon Drip. 15 minutes after meeting with the village chief. "The more I look at the moon, the creepier it gets," Happy said, as he stared at the bright purple moon through a window in the hut that the fairy tale mages were staying in. "Happy, close that damn window. Didn't you hear what the chief said?" Lucy asked, beginning to unpack her bag. "No, what did he say?" Happy asked, as he shut the window. "If we get exposed to too much of that moonlight, we'll turn into demons as well," Lucy explained, as Happy jumped down from the windowsill. "That's really annoying," Natsu complained, slouching in his chair. "No way we could destroy a moon," Gray said with a frown, as he crossed his arms over his chest. "Yeah," Lucy said, as she turned to look at Natsu. "Don't go getting any ideas, Natsu. I wonder how many punches it'd take to destroy the moon." Natsu pondered, as he rubbed his chin. "You're seriously considering that?" Gray exclaimed in a surprised tone. The ice mage sighed, and ran his hand down his face. "It's impossible to destroy the moon, dumbass." "I hate to say it, but Gray's right, Natsu. No mage could do something like that," Lucy admitted, as she took a seat across from Natsu. "But destroy the moon is our request this time," Natsu argued, causing Gray to groan in annoyance. "If we can't do it, that'd be a disgrace to Fairy Tale, and I'll be damned if I let our guild's reputation be tarnished." "Whatever, impossible is still impossible," Gray exclaimed in an exasperated tone. "How would you even get to the moon?" "Happy," Natsu simply answered, as he pointed towards the ceiling. "I can't do that," Happy said, causing Natsu to slouch even deeper into his seat. "This destroy the moon thing, it comes from the victim's point of view," Lucy said, crossing her arms under her chest. "There should be another way to break the curse." "I sure hope there is," Gray said, as he stifled a yawn. Fine. Tomorrow we'll explore the island. Natsu groaned, plopping down onto his mat on the floor. Let's just get some sleep. Aye, sir. Happy exclaimed, jumping onto his own mat. We'll worry about it tomorrow. Gray said in a tired tone, as his head hit his pillow. Yeah, I'm pretty tired too. Lucy said, rubbing her eyes. Good night, guys. Lucy laid down on her mat in between Gray and Natsu. But right before Lucy fell asleep, she glanced over at Gray. The ice mage was lying down to her right, and Lucy could tell that the dark-haired man was sleeping in the nude. Scooting away from Gray, Lucy snuggled up next to Natsu. Immediately Lucy could feel the warmth that Natsu was giving off, and it was quickly putting her to sleep. To Lucy's shock, moments after she moved closer to the dragon slayer, she felt his hand drape around her waist. Lucy! Natsu said, letting out a content sigh as he pulled Lucy closer. The blonde's face turned fluorescent red when she felt Natsu bury his nose into her hair and inhale deeply. After a few seconds, the pink-haired dragon slayer let out a slight moan, before he rested his head in the crook of Lucy's neck. Turning her head slightly, Lucy saw that the dragon slayer was fast asleep. He's asleep? Lucy thought, as she let out a sigh of relief. The blonde's heart was beating frantically, and her mind was racing. She wanted nothing more than to wake Natsu, and confess her feelings before him. But then Myra's words rang through her head, and she stopped any thoughts of confessing to the dragon slayer. She would just have to be patient, and if Natsu's actions were any indication, she wouldn't have to wait very long. Well, this is better than nothing, Lucy thought, as she fell asleep in Natsu's arms. The next morning, 7:30 a.m. God damn, it's too early in the morning. Natsu and Gray whined, as they trudged behind Lucy. Well, I slept great, and I'm ready to get going, Lucy said with a slight blush. Lucy groaned when she saw Happy fast asleep on top of a nearby box. Wake up, cat! Aye, sir! Happy yelled in shock, as he jumped into the air. The blue cat then sleepily flew over to Natsu's shoulder. Natsu, Lucy's being mean. Please stop whining, buddy, it's way too early in the morning. Natsu groaned, rubbing his temples. Happy grumbled, and crossed his paws over his chest. After walking through the village, the fairy tale mages made it to the village's front gate. You're all up early, the gate guard said, raising an eyebrow. Were you not able to sleep because you were surrounded by demons? No, we all slept fine, so don't worry about it, Lucy said with a smile, waving dismissively. We actually want to investigate the island a little bit before we destroy the moon. So could you please open the gate? What? Natsu questioned in an excited tone. We're gonna destroy the moon after all? Before the dragon slayer could say any more, Lucy slapped her hand over his mouth. The gate guard gave the mages a confused look before he pulled a lever to open the gate. Go on ahead, the guard said, as the gate began to open. But please be careful, in the forest there is. The guard tried to warn the mages, but when he looked down he saw that they were already gone. Oh, they're gone already. Lucy quickly led Natsu out of the village, with Gray following closely behind. Once they were a safe distance away, Lucy took her hand away from Natsu's mouth. The dragon slayer immediately gave the celestial spirit mage an annoyed look. What the hell is going on? Natsu exclaimed, as he stomped his foot. Yesterday you insisted that it's impossible to destroy the moon. It is impossible, Lucy explained calmly, gaining the Natsu's interest. I just said that in front of the townspeople, so that they think we're going along with their plan. Even if we could destroy the moon, we wouldn't. Because we wouldn't be able to enjoy the moon anymore, Gray said, causing Natsu to nod and cross his arms over his chest. Oh yeah. We wouldn't be able to enjoy the limited-time fairy tale special, Moon Viewing Stakes, Natsu exclaimed, as his mouth began to water. Mira always makes them just right. And I couldn't live without my moon viewing salty. Happy cheered, beginning to envision his delicious fish already. Hey guys, can you tone it down a little? We never know what's surrounding us, she says. When Gray and Natsu turn around, they were surprised to see Lucy sitting inside Horologium. "Why aren't you walking on your own, Luce?" Natsu said, crouching in front of Horologium. "I'm not sure you're using your celestial spirits the right way," Gray said with a sweat drop. "Oh, our opponent is a curse this tea time. Something unsubstantial and creepy," she says. Horologium said, as Lucy clenched her teeth. "Don't worry, Luce," Natsu said with a toothy grin, patting Horologium's side. "If anything attacks us, I'll kick its ass and keep you safe." Lucy's cheeks turned slightly pink, but she still managed to nod her head. "All right." Natsu shot to his feet and began to walk into the jungle. S-Class quest. I'm all fired up. I'll just freeze this stupid curse. So don't freak out, Gray said, putting his hands in his pockets as he followed behind Natsu. "You're both being real dumb," she say. Horologium said for Lucy, as the blonde let out a deep sigh. The fairy tale mages started to trudge through the jungle in search of any clues. But after searching for over an hour, they hadn't found a single thing. As the group stopped to rest in a clearing, Natsu's picked up a strange scent. "What is that?" Natsu asked, as he inhaled deeply. "It really stinks." "What are you on about, idiot?" Gray said in an annoyed tone. "I don't know, Ice Princess, but something really reeks," Natsu said, as he took another whiff. The Dragon Slayer spun around to follow the scent. But when Natsu turned around, his eyes bulged. "What the fuck is that?" "What now, what the shit?" Gray yelled out when he saw a giant mouse in a pink and black dress sitting behind them. "A mouse?" Natsu yelled in complete shock. "It's fucking huge!" Gray screamed, taking a cautious step back. "Guys, take it down already," she say. He says. Horologium said for Lucy and Happy, as they pressed against the grandfather clock's glass. "Bring it on!" Gray exclaimed, as frost began to form in his palms. "It's going to spit something up," Natsu yelled, when he saw the giant mouse's cheeks begin to bulge. "I'll use ice make shield and..." But before Gray could finish, the giant mouth began to spew a green noxious gas from its mouth. "NGAH. What the fuck?" Natsu roared, as he covered his nose. The Dragon Slayer had to suppress the urge to vomit as he collapsed to the ground. "What's going on, guys?" she says. Horologium said, as he suddenly inhaled the disgusting gas. "NGAH. The clock's celestial spirit suddenly collapsed to the ground unconscious. Seconds later, Horologium disappeared, leaving Lucy. The giant mouse laughed, as it watched the mages writhe on the ground. "Gah! It stinks! What is this smell?" Gray yelled, as he turned to look at Natsu. The Dragon Slayer was lying on the ground and barely conscious. "Natsu! You suck!" The Dragon Slayer managed to lift his arm and flip Gray off. "Oh, that's right, you have a stronger sense of smell than us." Gray quickly hauled Natsu, Lucy, and Happy to their feet. "Run!" The fairy tale mages started to run for their lives, as the giant mouse chased after them. Several times the humongous mouse tried to swipe at the mages, but they managed to quickly dive out of the way each time. "TCH, I've had enough of this." Gray slammed his hands onto the ground, freezing all the ground in front of him. "Ice make floor." The mouse immediately slipped on the ice and fell straight into its back. "Nice one," Natsu complimented, as the group continued running. "Look, guys. There's a building over there," Lucy exclaimed, as she pointed to some ruins in front of them. "Let's get in there while we still can. We're beating the shit out of this mouse while we can." Gray and Natsu yelled simultaneously, as they hit the down mouse. Once the mouse was unconscious, the fairy tale mages made their way into the ruins. The first room they entered was a large, mostly empty room that seemed to be falling apart. "Man, this room is massive," Lucy commented, as she scanned over the massive room. "It's falling apart." Natsu observed, spotting the toppled over pillars. Suddenly something caught Natsu's eye. Look, there are moon-shaped marks all over the walls. Well, this island was originally called Moon Island, Gray said, as he gazed at the marks. Moon Island and Moon's Curse, moon-shaped marks. This is getting really suspicious, Lucy said, rubbing her chin. This place is really shabby. Is the floor even sturdy enough? Natsu asked, as slammed his foot onto the floor. Hey! Stop that! Lucy yelled, as she walked over to the pink-haired dragon slayer. You just said this place looked shabby. Moments after Lucy said this, the floor underneath the group collapsed. Idiot! Gray screamed, as everyone fell into the hole that Natsu had created. Happy, can you do anything? Lucy yelled, as the group fell towards the ground below. I can only care one person at a time, Happy exclaimed right before crashed into the ground below. Lucy's landing wasn't as rough, because Natsu had managed to reach out and catch her. The dragon slayer had quickly spun around so that he'd land on his back, causing him to take the brunt of the impact. Natsu! Are you okay? Lucy asked in a worried tone, as she hopped off him. Yep, Natsu said with a toothy grin, jumping back to his feet. I feel just fine. Okay, but be more careful next time, I thought you may have gotten hurt, Lucy said, as she dusted herself off. Sure thing, Luce, Natsu said, just as Gray punched him in the back of the head. Dumbass. Do you ever think? Gray yelled in a pissed off tone. The ice mage sighed, as he looked up to where they all fell from. Looks like this is a basement for the ruins we found earlier. Whoa! It's a secret cavern! Natsu exclaimed in an excited tone. Since we're already down here, let's do a little exploring. Natsu immediately took off sprinting down a random cave in the underground cavern. The rest of the group slowly trailed behind Natsu. But once Lucy, Gray, and Happy caught up with Natsu, they were surprised to see him standing still at the end of the cave. Hey! Don't run off next time, Gray chastised, as he walked up to the dragon slayer. Ha! Natsu muttered, as his mouth hung open. What is up? Gray asked with a confused look. What is that? Natsu managed to stutter out. When everyone else followed the dragon slayer's gaze, their eyes widened in shock. Before them was a humongous demon encased in ice. A giant monster. As the rest of the group stared at the monster in shock, Gray took a few fearful steps back. Sweat formed on the ice mage's brow, as he began to shake. Deliora! Gray exclaimed in a disbelieving tone. No way! How can Deliora be here? What? You know what this thing is? Natsu asked, as he pointed to the monster. Impossible! Gray yelled, as he clenched his fists. It can't be here. It's... Gray, calm down, Lucy exclaimed, placing her hand on the ice mage's shoulder. Gray took a few deep breaths and seemed to calm down slightly. Hey Gray, what is this thing anyways? Deliora, Gray said through clenched teeth. Demon of misfortune and disaster. Demon of misfortune and disaster? Natsu parroted, as he gazed up at the demon that towered over the mages. It hasn't even slightly changed, Gray said in a confused tone. What's going on here? Shhhh. Natsu said, as his ears perked up. He quickly grabbed Gray and Lucy, and tossed them behind some nearby boulders. Before either could argue, the pink-haired dragon slayer covered their mouths. Someone's coming. From the cave they entered from, two men emerged. One of the men had spiky blue hair and large eyebrows, while the other had long orange hair and sported a dog-like appearance. Are you sure this where you heard the voices? The blue-haired man asked. I'm kinda sleepy, the dog-like man said, as he rubbed his eyes. Did happen to get some moon drip on you? The blue-haired man asked, raising one of his large eyebrows. I didn't, the dog-like man yelled, suddenly enraged. I'm just teasing you, idiot. The blue-haired man said with a deep sigh. Geez, Toby, you need to calm down. Hee hee, sorry Yuka. The now-named Toby said, as he rubbed the back of his head. Moon drip. Are they talking about the curse? Lucy asked, as she peeked over the boulders they were hiding behind. Yuka-san, Toby-san, I have some terrible news. A feminine voice said, as a third person emerged from the cave. A pink-haired woman quickly walked over to Toby and Yuka. Oh Sherry, it's just you. Yuka said, as he put his hands behind his pack. Angelica has been hurt by someone. Sherry said in a sad tone. It's just a mouse. Toby screamed, earning a glare from Sherry. She's not just a mouse. Sherry said, clasping her hands in front of her stomach. The pinkette's cheeks were tinged pink, as she shuffled from foot to foot. Angelica is a hunter that gallops through the darkness. And love. Something's really wrong with her. Lucy said with a sweat drop. They're not originally from this island. Natsu said, taking a whiff of the air. Their smell is totally different. And they don't seem to be cursed. Happy observed, as he turned his gaze to Toby. I'm not sure about that guy with the ears though. So there is intruders, eh? Yuka said, lowering his head as he thought. Moonlight will gather soon, but now we have intruders, how sad this is. Sherry said, as she gazed at Deliora. She then turned her gaze back to Yuka and Toby. We need to get rid of these intruders before Ryuichi-sama hears about it. Yes, before the moon shows herself. I concur. Yuka said, nodding his head. Since they've most likely seen Deliora, we can't let them get back alive. Eternal sleep to the intruders, in other words love. Sherry said, clasping her hands in front of her chest. It's called death. We're gonna kill them. Toby yelled, as he stomped his foot. Right, let's try to find them. Yuka said, as he led Sherry and Toby out of the cavern. Now what? Natsu asked, as the fairy tale mages emerged from their hiding spots. We should have just captured them and asked them some questions. Not yet, let's see how this all pans out. Lucy said, earning a frown from the dragon slayer. This is becoming very confusing. Natsu said in an annoyed tone, furrowing his brows. I wonder who these people are. Happy said, as he rubbed his chin. Shit, why did they bring Deliora here? Gray said through clenched teeth, staring at the ground. I mean, how did they find where Deliora was sealed? Sealed? Natsu repeated, raising an eyebrow. Deliora was sealed in an iceberg on the northern continent. Gray explained, causing Natsu and Lucy's eyes to widen. It's an immortal demon that entered the land of Isvan 10 years ago. It's a demon that my magic teacher, sacrificed her life to seal. Lucy gasped and Natsu looked slightly shaken by this revelation. Gray clenched his fists, as frost began to form around his hands. The ice mage leveled a harsh glare at the demon before them. I don't know how Deliora is related to this island's curse, but I know it shouldn't be here. Ray-T, what are you trying to do? A sudden growl escaped Gray's throat. I won't let you get away with this. I won't let you disgrace Ur's name. A demon that your teacher sealed? Natsu parroted, causing Gray to release a sigh. Yes. There's no doubt. Gray replied, staring up at Deliora. If it was originally on the northern continent, how did it end up here? Happy asked to no in particular, as he scratched his chin. Could this demon be the cause the island's curse? Gray asked, turning to Gray. Possibly. This demon's still alive anyways. Gray answered with perplexed look. If that's the case, let me try to finish it off. Natsu said, stretching his muscles. But before Natsu could make a move towards Deliora, Gray punched Natsu in the jaw, sending the dragon slayer crashing to the ground. Lucy gasped and quickly ran over to help Natsu up. Gray, you! What the hell was that for? A fire mage won't get any closer. Gray said in a serious tone. If the ice melts and Deliora is set free, no one could stop it. Is that ice so weak that it would melt so easily? Natsu shouted, causing Gray's eyes to widen. No. Gray said, tearing his gaze away from the Dragon Slayer. Gray, are you alright? Lucy asked, placing her hand on Gray's shoulder. TCH, guess I was hit for nothing. Natsu said to himself, as he spit out some blood. You are cast a magic called Iced Shell on that demon. Gray explained in a low tone, his hair covering his eyes as he stared at the ground. It's an unmeltable ice. Even with some incredible fire magic, this ice wouldn't melt. If they knew they couldn't melt it, why would they bring this demon out? Maybe they didn't know. Maybe they're trying to melt it somehow. Lucy suggesting, earning a glare from Gray. Why would they do that? Gray yelled, causing Lucy to jump back. I don't know. Lucy said, holding up her hands defensively. TCH. Gray muttered, gritting his teeth. Shit. I'm not acting like my normal self. Gray looked up at the demon before them. Who brought Deliora here, and for what reason? The answer is easy. Natsu said, pointing towards a cavern. We have to go after those guys from earlier. Yeah, after hearing all this from Gray, we need to find out what those people are planning. Lucy agreed, placing her hands on her hips. No. Gray said, turning back to the rest of the group. We'll wait here. We wait until the moon is up. The moon, but it's the middle of the fucking day. Natsu exclaimed with wide eyes. No way I'm waiting that long. I'll die of boredom. What are you talking about, Gray? Lucy asked, covering Natsu's mouth to stop him from shouting. I can't stop thinking about how everything, the island's curse and Deliora, are somehow related to the moon. That pink-haired girl said the moonlight will gather soon. I see. Lucy said, as she nodded her head. Alright, we'll stay put for now. But I have to say I'm curious as to what will happen next. What are they planning? That's impossible for me, Luce. Natsu shouted, spewing a small stream of fire. I'm gonna go after them. But before Natsu could take off, Lucy grabbed his arm. The blonde celestial spirit mage quickly forced the pink-haired dragon slayer to sit down. You listen now, Natsu, you're staying here. Lucy said in low tone, as she glared at Natsu. She then pointed over to Gray. The ice mage was sitting on a rock, and appeared to be in deep thought. Whatever's going on here is seriously messing with Gray's head. So you can't just run around and destroy things like usual. This Deliora thing obviously traumatized him or something, so we need to try and do things his way for now. So please just relax for now, do it for me. Damn it, fine Luce, I'll stay here. But I'm doing this because you asked me to, not because I care about Gray. Natsu said, avoiding Lucy's gaze and crossing his arms over his chest. Holy crap! That was almost as bad as a scolding from Urza. When did Lucy get so scary? Good, then get some rest or something. Lucy said with a smile, as she sat down on a rock. You are. Gray thought, as he clasped his hands in front of his face. As the ice mage sat down, he couldn't help but think back to when UR had taught him ice magic. Ugh, even if we agreed to wait, it's still really boring. Lucy complained, resting her head on her hand. Suddenly an idea popped into the blonde's head. She reached back for her gate keys, and pulled out a silver one. Open. Gate of the Lyre. Lyra. A bright golden light filled the air in front of Lucy. When the light died down, a strawberry blonde-haired girl in a blue and pink dress stood smiling at Lucy. The celestial spirit also appeared to have a large blue harp on her back. Kia. Lucy. It's been so long since I've seen you. Lyra cheered, waving energetically at Lucy. Ah. How come you only summon once in a while? Our contract only allows me to summon you like 3 times a month. Lucy replied with a sweat drop. Eh? Is that so? I must have forgotten. Lyra exclaimed in a shocked tone, as she sat down next to Lucy. "So? What do you want me to sing?" "Anything really, it's totally your call," Lucy answered, causing Lyra's eyes to light up. "All right. Then I know exactly what to play," Lyra exclaimed in an excited tone, as she pulled the harp off her back. Soon Lyra began to pluck the strings of her harp, producing a beautiful and soft melody. "Words are born, words fade away, words continue to live in you." Lucy and Natsu both closed their eyes and began to nod off. "When you stuck, they change into courage. Let's step out, you're stronger than back then." Gray began to shake as he fought back tears. The song was bringing back memories of you are. So don't hesitate. Believe the words, Gray said, as tears finally began to fall from his eyes. "From that time." "Eh? Gray?" Lucy asked, surprised to see Gray crying. "Huh? What's up?" Gray asked, quickly wiping away his tears. "I knew Lyra was good at singing about people's feelings," Lucy said, causing Gray to clench his teeth. Gray cried. Happy said in a surprised tone. "I didn't." Gray quickly denied, refusing to turn around. "Lyra, can you sing something more cheerful?" Lucy asked, trying to lift the sullen mood. "Eh? You should have said that from the start," Lyra said, as she readied to play another song. "Wait," Gray said, stopping Lyra before she could start. "What will we do if someone comes? Just keep quiet for now." Several hours later, all of the fairy tale mages were fast asleep when they were all suddenly awoken by a large crashing sound, echoing throughout the cave. Natsu and Lucy both groaned as they sat up. "What's that sound?" Lucy asked, rubbing the sleep out of her eyes. "Man, it's nighttime already," Natsu exclaimed, as he shot to his feet. "The ceiling," Gray said, pointing towards the cavern's roof. A large hole had started to open in the cavern's roof, and it was pouring in purple moonlight. "Opened up. Purple light, that has to be the moonlight. What's going on?" Happy yelled, as the purple light began to intensify. The light streamed through the hole in the roof, and directly hit Deliora below. "The light's hitting Deliora!" Lucy exclaimed in a shocked tone. "This can't be a coincidence. Come on. Let's search for where the light's coming from," Gray shouted, as he began to sprint out of the cavern. "All right, let's go," Natsu exclaimed, charging after Gray. The fairy tale mages ran through the caves and up several flights of stairs. Eventually they found themselves in another large open room. In the middle of the room they found a large hole that allowed the moonlight to flow through it. There was hole in the middle of these remains, Gray said, as he looked up at room's ceiling. "It's coming from above." Running up several more flights of stairs, the fairy tale mages discovered the source of the moonlight. There was a large hole on the roof of the remains that was funneling the moonlight into the ruins. But the fairy tale team was surprised to see a group of people dressed in cloaks circled around the large hole and chanting. "Are they really gathering moonlight?" Natsu asked, as everyone took cover behind a low wall. "And they're exposing Deliora to it? What are they doing?" Lucy said, just as Lyra appeared beside her. "It's a spell called Moondrip," Lyra said, surprising Lucy. "You're still here?" Lucy asked with a sweat drop. "I know what's going on now," Lyra said, causing everyone's eyes to widen. "They're going to use Moondrip to revive the demon underground." "That can't be, iced shell can't be melted," Gray said, turning to face the celestial spirit. "Moondrip is a type of magic made to specifically melt ice," Lyra explained, causing Gray's eyes to widen. "When the moon's magical power is gathered at one place, it has the power to break any type of spell." "No way." Happy breathed out in shock. "They don't know how horrendous Deliora is," Gray said, a hint of fear evident in his voice. "Whatever the island's people think that curses, I think it has something to do with Moondrip," Lyra suggested, glaring at the cloaked people surrounding the large hole in the roof. The moon's magical power gathered at one spot is so strong that it can contaminate a human body. Natsu was about to charge out, but Lucy quickly grabbed him. Wait! Someone's coming! Lucy hissed, just as 4 more people walked onto the roof. 3 of them were the people that the fairy tale mages had seen earlier: Yuka, Toby, and Sherry. But the 4th person was some that the group hadn't encountered yet. The man was very imposing. He sported a large white cape, with a wide collar, golden edges, and fur trimmings over the shoulders, held close by belt. Below this cape, he wore a blue, high-collared tunic with golden edges, reaching down below his knees. The outfit also included baggy dark pants tucked inside armored greaves, composed of different plates and sporting kneecaps, and an ornamental helmet obscuring most of his face. Bearing resemblance to a skull, this helmet sported a front part which covered the man's upper face, revealing his mouth and nose, with a line of sharp teeth beneath it, and his eyes not being visible from the eye slits of the mask. The helmet also came equipped with striped horns pointing frontwards and with a large crest made of spiky fur, falling on the man's back. Shit, I've been awake almost all day, and now I'm tired. Yuka cursed, as he shook his head. We couldn't find the intruders either. You sure there was intruders in the first place? Toby yelled in an angry tone. I have terrible news, Ryuichi-sama. Sherry said, walking up to the now identified Rei-T. There were some intruders during the daytime, but we couldn't find them. I can't speak of love like this. Intruders? Rei-T repeated in an irritated tone. Hearing the man's voice, Gray's breath hitched. That's Rei-T? Natsu asked, raising a pink eyebrow. Look at him, acting all high and mighty. Wearing a mask and all. Lucy said, glaring at Rei-T. Yeah, he looks like a total douche. Natsu said, forcing at the man. Is Deliora revived yet? Rei-T asked, walking towards a cliff overlooking the village on the other side of the island. Probably today or tomorrow. Sherry quickly replied. Which is it? Toby exclaimed, causing Sherry and Yuka to groan in annoyance. We're almost there. Rei-T said with a smirk. About those intruders, I don't want anyone to get in the way now. We understand, Ryuichi-sama. Sherry said, bowing slightly. Only the village on the other side of the island has humans there. Rei-T said, gesturing towards the village. Go there and obliterate that village. Yes, sir. Sherry, Toby, and Yuka said simultaneously, as they took off running towards the village. What? Natsu exclaimed, as he shot to his feet. Those townspeople have nothing to do with this. Lucy said, as she began to panic. What should we do? That voice. Gray said, as sweat began to form on his brow. Please tell me, it's a lie. I don't prefer blood, but... Rei-T said with a smirk, as he stared at the village. Fuck this. Natsu roared, as he jumped out of their hiding spot. I'm sick of this sneaking around shit. The pink-haired dragon slayer inhaled deeply, before he exhaled a large stream of lightning into the sky. We're going to stop you assholes. Everyone stopped and turned to face the fairy tale mages. Shit. Heaven knows what will happen next. Lucy exclaimed, as she grabbed 2 keys off her ring. While Natsu and Lucy prepared to fight, Gray seemed frozen in place. Those marks. They're from fairy tale. Sherry pointed out in surprised tone. I see. The townspeople must have contacted a guild for help. Yuka said, crossing his hands behind his back. What are you doing? Rei-T asked, turning to Sherry, Toby, and Yuka. Go and destroy the village. Why? Natsu asked, gritting his teeth. Anyone who gets in our way. Anyone with such plans. You're all our enemies. Rei-T said, clenching his fist. Why? Natsu roared, as lightning crackled off his fists. You! Gray yelled, as he charged forward. Stop this useless ritual. Gray slammed his hands onto the ground, causing pillars of ice to sprout out of the ground. The ice pillars immediately began to move towards the hole in the roof. But to everyone's shock, Rady slammed his hands onto the ground as well. Ice pillars flew out of the ground, identical to Gray's. He uses ice magic too? Happy exclaimed in shock. The forming pillars of ice collided, and began to form one massive block of ice. Soon the large chunk of ice exploded into thousands of smaller pieces. Lion! Gray growled, as he glared at the man across from him. Do you have any idea what you're doing? It's been quite some time, Gray. The newly named Lion said with a twisted smirk. You know him? Lucy asked in shock, as she pointed at Lion. What the hell are you doing? Gray yelled in an angry tone. I'd never imagine the maids that the townspeople have sent would be you. Lion said with a small smile. Did you know about all this, or was it all one big coincidence? Actually, it doesn't matter. Lion turned back to his companions. Hurry and go. I can take care of him myself. I won't let you. Natsu roared, as he flew towards Lion, electricity sparking of his fists. No! Natsu! Don't get close to him! Gray yelled, trying to warn the Dragon Slayer. But it was too late. Ice began to swirl around Natsu, before it started to cling to his body. Natsu howled in pain, as the ice began to clump together all over his body. Happy! Get Lucy out of here! Gray managed to say, before he started to exchange blows with Lion once again. Happy exclaimed, as he grabbed Lucy and began to fly away. Shit! I can't move! Natsu shouted, as he struggled to break free of the ice encasing him. Happy! Are we seriously gonna abandon Natsu? Lucy shouted, looking back at the Dragon Slayer with a concerned look. That guy flooded the area with ice magic. Happy replied, as he carried Lucy to safety. If we had stayed there, we would have been caught in the ice as well. But, then Natsu might. Lucy struggled to say, as tears filled her eyes. If all of us were taken out, who would protect the village? Happy exclaimed, tears began to form in eyes as well. Happy! Lucy breathed out in a surprised tone. A sad smile suddenly spread across Lucy's face. Sorry, Happy, you must have been holding yourself back from helping Natsu. We'll just have to have faith in Natsu. Natsu will be alright. Ice can't do a thing to the salamander. Happy cheered, causing Lucy to chuckle. Aye, sir! Lucy exclaimed, as Happy flew towards the village. You made an opening for the girl and cat to get away. Lion said in a bored tone. It's alright, they won't be able to stop Sherry and the others. Don't underestimate fairy tale mages. Natsu shouted, still trapped in a spherical block of ice. Before Natsu could say any more, Gray kicked the Dragon Slayer. Immediately losing his balance, Natsu began to roll down a nearby hill. The fuck, Gray? Natsu's voice trailed off as he got farther down the mountain. You're still reckless, Gray. Wasn't he one of your nakama? Lion asked with a smirk. That magic you used can destroy a person's body along with the ice, am I right? Gray questioned, causing Lion to chuckle. I see. That's why you pushed him to where my magic can't reach him. Nice work. Lion complimented, causing Gray to growl. Stop acting like you're my senior. Gray said, glaring at Lion. Lion, you're not UR's student anymore. The same goes for you, Gray. Lion said, as he began to remove his helmet. UR isn't alive anymore. She sacrificed her life to seal Deliora. Gray shouted in a furious tone. You're trying to destroy what's left of UR. Don't fool yourself, Gray, you killed UR. Lion said, revealing his face. Gray gasped, as sweat began to form on his brow. How can you live with yourself? Gray! You son of a bitch! I'll remember this! Natsu roared from the bottom of the hill. Flames exploded off Natsu's head and hands, as he tried to melt the ice encasing him. Why can't I melt this shit? Natsu pressed his flaming hand against the ice, but it nothing. What's up with this ice? Natsu growled, and slowly began to shuffle around. Fuck this. I have to get back to the village fast. Natsu stumbled slightly, but he managed to readjust himself. God damn it. It's hard to run in this shit. Fucking gray. Water leading to Galuna Island. What are you going to that island for? A pirate asked in a frightened tone. Just navigate. An annoyed feminine voice replied. Pardon me, but Galuna Island is cursed. I heard humans turn into demons there. The pirate said, but a grunt from the woman stopped him. I don't care. Urza Scarlet said with a frown. I'm just going there to stop a couple of dumbasses from getting killed. Simple as that. Urza growled, as she glared at the island ahead. I swear Natsu, if you get hurt, I'll never forgive you. The scarlet-haired woman clenched her fists tightly. If you wanted to go on an S-class mission so badly, I would have taken you on one, you idiot. Back on Galuna Island. You're the one who killed Gray. Lion said, glaring at Gray. You shouldn't even be allowed to say her name. Lion raised his arm and hit Gray with a blast of ice. Gray was sent crashing into a low wall. Lion. Gray said in a surprised tone. What's wrong? Do you feel too guilty to counterattack? Lion asked, raising a silver eyebrow. If that's the case, stay out of my way. I'm going to revive Deliora. I won't let you. Gray growled, as he pushed himself off the ground. That's the spirit. Lion said with a smirk, as he dropped her helmet. Let's have a real fight, it's been a while. Lion once again raised his arm, as frost began to form in the air. Ice make eagle. A barrage of eagles formed out, ice shot towards Gray. Ice make shield. Gray shouted, as he spread his arms out. A large shield made out of ice appeared in front of him, blocking the volley of ice eagles. You're good at molding materials. Static ice make. Lion said, as a group of ice eagles circled around Gray's shield and hit him. My ice, however, is a living thing. Dynamic ice make. Did you forget that my ice can shift around? Gray rolled out of the way, dodging another burst of ice eagles. Ice make hammer. Gray slammed his fist into his palm, causing a massive hammer, made out of ice, to form above Lion. Ice make ape. Lion lifted his arm above his head, and a large ape made out of ice appeared. The ape raised its arms and stopped the ice hammer from hitting Lion. TCH, you're pathetic, Gray. You're still using both hands for ice modeling magic. It's yours teaching. Gray countered, standing back on his feet. One-handed molding is incomplete and unbalanced. I'm special. I surpassed yours power long ago. Lion said, causing Gray to grit his teeth. Don't think so highly of yourself. Gray said, nearly out of breath. I'd say the same thing to you. Lion said, glaring at Gray. Were you able to hit me even once? I'm not the same as I was back then. Gray shouted, slamming his fist into his palm. Ice geyser. Gray slammed his hands onto the ground, causing massive pillars of ice to shoot out of the ground. Lion seemed to be encased in the ice, but seconds later all the ice exploded around him. You haven't changed at all, Gray. Lion's voice echoed out amongst the falling shards of ice. I was the senior pupil, and I was always stronger than you. I could mold magic one-handed, but you couldn't. Absolutely nothing has changed. Suddenly the ice surrounding Lion exploded outwards, revealing that he was unscathed. Even thought-out paths are differ, time has been frozen since then. Gray gasped when a massive dragon made out of ice burst out of the falling ice shards, and launched him into the air. That's why I'm melting the ice, in order to walk on the paths that were once blocked. Gray crashed back to the ground with an audible thud. Was my goal. It was always my dream to surpass her. Lion grit his teeth and clenched his fists. But you ruined that dream. I thought it'd be impossible to surpass you are now. But there's still a way. Gray managed to lift himself back up to one knee. If I can defeat Deliora, the demon that you are couldn't even defeat. Gray's eyes widened when he saw the crazed look in Lion's eyes. Then I have surpassed her. I can continue dreaming. Are you fucking insane? Is that seriously what you're planning? Gray yelled in shock. You should know how terrible Deliora is. Please don't do this, it's impossible. Hearing this caused Lion to snap. The silver-haired man lifted his hand, and completely encased Gray in ice. Don't, it's impossible, Lion said in anger through clenched teeth. Back then, we told you those exact words. Don't tell me you forgot. Lion launched another barrage of ice, sending Gray flying out of the ice he was trapped in. You challenged Deliora and that's why you are died. You have no right to mention Uar's name. Vanish. Die. Before Lion could attack, Gray's vision faded white. When Gray came to, he saw a large figure waddling towards him. When the figure came into view, Gray's eyes widened. It was Natsu. The dragon slayer was still encased in ice, as he glared at Gray. Damn, you're lame. Natsu said with an annoyed look. You're beaten half to death. Natsu, why are you here? Gray asked, as Natsu grabbed the back of his shirt. I wasn't sure where the village was, so I climbed back up the hill. I can pick up scents better from up here. Natsu said, as he began to sniff the air. Aha! It's that way. Let's get going. Where's Lion? Gray asked, confused by his sudden disappearance. I have no clue. Natsu answered, hoisting Gray over his shoulders. No one was here, and the ritual was already over. Natsu's eyes suddenly widened, as he began to pick up his pace. Shit. We have to get moving, so that we can help Lucy. I won't forgive myself if she gets hurt. As Natsu carried Gray, the Ice Mage couldn't help but think about what Lion had said to him. No. You'll never win against Deliora. It's impossible. It's too early for you, Gray. Gray then remembered what Natsu had said to him before they left for Galuna Island. I don't care. I'm gonna do this S-Class job. It's called S-Class for a reason, dumbass. Natsu. Gray said quietly. Huh? Natsu muttered, looking back at Gray. I can't blame you for anything. Gray managed to say, as tears fell from his eyes. I really can't. Seeing Gray's sadness, Natsu decided he had to try and cheer the Ice Mage up. Don't feel insecure just because you lost. Natsu roared, causing Gray's eyes to widen. We are Fairy Tail. We're from the guild that doesn't know when to stop. We won't survive unless we continue running. Natsu stumbled again, and almost fell over. Shit. It's so fucking hard to run. Back in the village. And so, whoever comes here are the real culprits behind this curse. Lucy explained to the villagers gathered around her. This is a great opportunity to capture them and ask them how to return you all to normal. You say capture them. But those three are probably mages. Happy pointed out. That's true, even though we outnumber them, we don't have many mages. Lucy said, as she rubbed her chin. Suddenly an idea popped in Lucy's head. The blonde had a mischievous grin on her face, as she rubbed her hands together. I thought of a good plan. Lucy then began to direct the villagers to help put her plan together. 20 minutes after Lucy had started construction of her plan, the Mocha came investigate. What's all this commotion about? Please listen. Enemy mages will attack soon. Lucy explained, causing the chief's eyes to widen. Enemies? Mocha exclaimed in a shocked tone. They're hiding out in the ruins at the end of the forest. They're likely the people who caused you all to turn into demons. Lucy said, causing Mocha to suddenly become enraged. I didn't ask you to do that. Mocha yelled, startling Lucy. Why can't you just destroy the moon? But we don't have to destroy the moon anymore. We just need to catch the culprits, Lucy said, as she rubbed her arm. The moon! Mocha shouted, as two villagers held him back. Please destroy the moon. Please don't mind him, a villager said, as Mocha was dragged off. He's been through a lot since he lost Bobo. I understand, Lucy said with a look of determination. Leave it to me. Everything will be all right. Princess, Virgo said, gaining Lucy's attention. The preparation is complete. Thanks, Virgo. As I expected, you dig hole pretty fast, Lucy complimented with a smile. Will punish me? Virgo asked, causing Lucy to sweat drop. What the hell are you talking about? I gave you compliment, Lucy said with a confused look. You know what? Happy said, as Lucy turned to face the blue cat. What is it, Happy? Lucy asked with a smile. I truly believe you're stupid, Lucy, Happy said, causing Lucy's smile to turn into a frown. Way to be a dick, Happy, Lucy said, crossing her arms under her chest. I don't think they'll fall for such an obvious trap, Happy pointed out, earning a glare from Lucy. What are you talking about? Lucy said, pointing towards the trap behind her. It's the perfect pitfall. Besides, I don't see you coming up with any ideas, cat. Well, I think the idea itself is foolish, Happy said, causing Lucy to pout. Well, there's only one entrance to this village, right? The enemies, of course, will have to come through her as well, Lucy said with a smirk, proud of her own plan. I still don't think anyone will fall for it, Happy said, many of the villagers agreeing with him. Princess, I don't think this will work either, Virgo said, causing Lucy to hang her head. Even you, Virgo? Lucy said in a disappointed tone. Suddenly Lucy whipped her head around with an annoyed look on her face. Just wait and see, this'll work for sure. Lucy-san. Someone's coming, the gate guard yelled. It's them. Open the gate, Lucy exclaimed, earning a nod from the gate guard. Yes, ma'am, the gate guard said, as he turned to lever to open the gate. Come on, Lucy exclaimed, as a figure came into view. But when Lucy got a better look at the approaching figure, her eyes widened. Gooeys! Natsu yelled, as he raced towards the village. Is everyone okay? Natsu! Lucy exclaimed in shock. The blonde was also surprised to see Natsu covered in ice and carrying Gray on his shoulders. No! Don't come closer! Lucy began to wave frantically, trying to warn the dragon slayer. Hold it! Stop! What is it? Natsu asked, as he came to a skidding stop, right in front of Lucy's pitfall. Lucy let out a sigh of relief. Luce, what's going on? Natsu asked, taking another step forward. The fuck? Natsu screamed as he fell into the pitfall. When Natsu crashed into the ground, it kicked up a large amount of dust and debris. Someone fell in it after all, a villager said in a surprised tone. It failed, Lucy said, as she ran her hand down her face. God damn, that hurt, Natsu exclaimed, as he rubbed his back. Hey! Who decided to pull a prank at a times like this? Lucy, of course, Happy said, pointing to the blonde, who was trying to hide from Natsu. Oh, then great trap, Luce, Natsu said with a toothy grin. Huh? Lucy muttered in surprise, as she came out of hiding. Natsu! I'm so glad you and Gray are alright, Happy cheered from the edge of the pitfall. We're not fine at all. Gray's down, Natsu said, gesturing to an unconscious Gray. It was then Natsu noticed that the ice that had encased him had fallen off. The ice is broken. Thanks, Luce, my fire couldn't even melt that shit. All according to plan, Lucy said nervously, forcing a smile onto her face. I'm assuming you're far away from the magic caster, the effect of the magic should have weakened, Virgo explained, causing Natsu to smirk. All right. Natsu cheered as he jumped out of the hole. Setting Gray back down gently. Gray, Lucy said in a concerned tone as she looked down at the beaten ice mage. Those mages aren't here yet? Natsu asked as he scanned over the village. Now that you mention it, they're late, Lucy said in a confused tone as she placed her hands on her hips. They even left before you, Natsu. But you arrived here first, strange. Yeah, I even climbed back up a hill and had a hard time running, so it took me a really long time, Natsu said, scratching his head. Hey! This is our chance. Let's cover the hole back up, Lucy suggested, causing the villagers to sweat drop. That's odd, Happy said, looking at the ground. There's no way it should have taken them this long. They're probably lost. Pitiful losers, Natsu said, turning to face the village gates. No, that can't be. They knew where the village was from the start, Lucy said, just as several villagers gasped in shock. What's that? A villager shouted, pointing into the sky. Natsu, Lucy, and Happy all looked towards the sky to see a large figure flying towards the village. Since Natsu had better vision, because of his dragon slayer magic, he saw the figure clearly first. When Natsu identified what the figure was, his eyes widened in shock. It's that giant fucking mouse from earlier. How is that stupid thing flying? Natsu shouted, his mouth agape in surprise. It's also carrying a huge bucket. Flying in the sky, you're wasting the effort we went through to make that pitfall, Lucy shouted as she shook her fist at the flying mouse. We took too long making the poison jelly, Sherry said with a disappointed look. But our timing was good. Those mages are all in the village now, Yuka said, crossing his arms behind his back. Unless we destroy Deliora, our wishes will never come true, Sherry said, her gaze darkening. Only death awaits those who stand in our way. A sudden gust of wind caused the bucket Angelica was holding to shake slightly, causing a small droplet to fall from the bucket. The droplet of jelly quickly began to descend towards the ground, directly towards Lucy. Jelly? Lucy asked in a confused tone as she held out her hand. As the jelly dropped towards the ground, Natsu could smell what it was made out of. The pink-haired dragon slayer's eyes widened as he watched the droplet fly towards Lucy. Without thinking, Natsu immediately started sprinting towards Lucy. Lucy! Natsu screamed as he tackled Lucy out of the way. The droplet just barely missed Lucy and hit a plant right next to her. The plant quickly began to smoke and dissolve. Seconds later, the plant was a pile of smoking green ooze. Thank you, Natsu, Lucy breathed out as her heart beat rapidly in her chest. If that had hit me, I would have died. Don't worry, Luce, I said I'd keep you safe, Natsu said, turning to glare at the mages above, a furious look in his eyes. They have a bucket full of that stuff, a villager shouted in scared tone. Don't tell me they're gonna that stuff on us? Another villager yelled, causing the other villagers to panic. Ugly, Yuka said, scowling at the villagers. He didn't know that Natsu could hear everything he was saying. Humans become so ugly under the influence of Moondrip. As if they're demons. How displeasing, it's like Deliora's children, Sherry said with a disgusted look, causing Natsu to growl in anger. Angelica, go ahead. The giant mouse dumped the bucket of green poisonous jelly, making sure to spread it all across the village. How are we supposed to stop that? Lucy screamed, fear evident in her tone. But she was calmed when she felt Natsu's hand on her shoulder. Luce, get everyone to the center of the village, Natsu said in a calm tone, surprising Lucy. Before Lucy could argue, Natsu had all ran off. Natsu! Lucy shouted as she watched the pink-haired dragon slayer sprint off. All right, everyone get to the center of the village. Lucy gave Natsu one last look before she began to usher people towards the center of the village. Natsu, please stay safe. Happy, can you fly me up there? Natsu yelled, as Happy grabbed the back of his vest. "Aye, sir!" Happy exclaimed, as he flew towards the wave of poisonous jelly. "I won't leave Bobo's grave," Mocha said, as he clutched his son's grave. "With lightning on my right hand," Natsu roared, as lightning sparked off his hands. "And lightning on my left hand, together they make." Natsu slapped his electrically coated hands together, creating a deafening thunderclap, as the sky filled with blinding yellow light. Lightning Dragon's brilliant flash. The electrical shockwave collided with the poisonous jelly, and began to spread it towards the outskirts of the village. He scattered the jelly with an electrical explosion. Yuka said in a shocked tone. "That mage can use fire and lightning?" The poisonous jelly began to rain down all over the outer parts of the village. Since all of the villagers were in the center, none of them were hurt by the jelly. However, the villagers gasped when they saw a large glob of jelly land of Bobo's grave. "Chief!" The villagers shouted in shock, as they watched Bobo's grave begin to dissolve. However, the villagers let out a sigh of relief when they saw Virgo drill out of the ground next to Lucy. The celestial spirit was carrying Mocha in her grasp. "I think we need to punish the chief," Virgo said, as she placed Mocha back onto the ground. "Virgo!" Lucy exclaimed, relief evident in her tone. "Thank God you were here to save the chief." The villagers' eyes widened as they surveyed the destruction that surrounded them. The entire village, except for the center, was completely melted and destroyed. The villagers began to whisper and murmur amongst themselves. "The village. It's completely destroyed. It's awful. Is anyone injured? Everyone seems okay. We've made it somewhat, but the village is ruined," Lucy said, placing her hands on her hips. "Bobo's grave," Mocha whispered, as he watched his son's grave crumble into pieces. A single tear fell from Mocha's eye, as he fell to his knees. "We have to eradicate all of Ryutai-sama's enemies," Sherry said, as she made her way towards the villagers. Natsu's gaze was darkened, as he stared at smoking remains of the village. "We were going to pity you all, and give you an instant death. But I guess we'll have to spill a lot of blood now." "What did you say?" Natsu said with a furious look, turning to glare at the enemy mages. That wraps up this part of What If Natsu Had Dual Elements. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.